Hey guys, welcome to the close. 2 p.m. That means a couple hours left in the trading session. What a day it's been. Back and forth we go. Back to the downside currently for U.S. equities right now. I mean, it could be a lot worse. If you joined us in the pre-market this morning, we were wondering which direction we were going to go after that non-farm payrolls report at 8:30. That was a little better than expected. It seemed like a bit of a bounce, but short-lived. Here we go. This is how things stand at this point. 1.2 for the S&P, back to the downside, 0.85 for the Dow, the NASDAQ 1.5. So it's been another negative day and a negative week overall. We're heading towards 0.3 here for the TSX in Toronto. Some commodities lifting. Canadian stocks today, Brazil down 1.3 as well. Yeah, there's crude, 4.6 right now. If you remember this morning, it was about 1 or 2%. We ran up to about 5%. So it's been another volatile day for oil markets. Bitcoin and Ethereum back in negative territory as well. That is the board at this point. Down here in the bottom corner, that's the energy group right now. Oxy with a huge day, 14.6% back to the upside. CTRA, BKR, all the normal ones here. Moving around, Mosaic, 5.7%. If you remember this morning, I mentioned that headline on Russia saying they were going to ban Russian fertilizer makers from exporting their products basically anywhere. So that caused a bit of a spike in Mosaic. Some of the other fertilizer makers having a good day. Newmont there, CF as well, positive. Everything else on this side of the board, very, very red. Banks are leading to the downside. Consumer discretionary stocks as well, specifically the travel names, very, very weak. To wrap up a very, very weak, there's AVGO, a very, very weak week. Something like that. Broadcom, 3.8% there after earnings. There's the NASDAQ. We'll have a quick look before we get into some individual names. Not much has changed. It's been a red day. Splunk with some positive news today. There's Broadcom, as we mentioned, back to the upside. Some Chinese names getting hit once again. So here we go. A couple hours left in a week that has been just full of headlines, full of uncertainty, full of geopolitical concerns. And here we are moving back towards session lows to wrap that week up. Let's get into it. Neil's going to lead the way here. We'll talk about one of his trades, and then we'll come back and get into a bit of a review of the day.
Let's go. The trade of the day. It'll be a winner, but it's not going to be my best trade. And sometimes it is more about learning and trying to get better than it is sort of showcasing a perfect setup. Market going down. There were a lot of really good shorts today, but there's been nothing, and I mean nothing, stronger than oil, and in particular, Occidental. So yes, we had a good structured long. It won, but it's not about that. It's about what could have been. It's about what should have been and how we can get it next time. So always start things off with the higher time frame. I was teasing with the idea of maybe zooming this in a little bit so that you wouldn't see how extreme this was. But when in doubt, zoom out to get an idea of what's been happening on Occidental for the last week. And it's nothing short of spectacular. Since the break of $40, you come into today with a multi-day top at 49. There was one test up at 50. You can sort of see that there yesterday. But a multi-day top at 49. Monster moves in oil. You've got tests of 116 in crude. It was trading around that 110 to 112 level this morning. So that's the context for what we're looking at. Now, I didn't have an opening range break trade. Once again, just like yesterday, I was looking for a dip buy off that 47 support. It never quite gets there. So I'm not with the dip and rip. However, it makes the break, and you get this nice consolidation, little bull flag. But I'm not looking for it to break out. I actually get into this trade while it's consolidating. And the reason why was at the same time, and I said this in the live show, and you guys can check back out, that we were putting up the CL chart so you could see oil futures actually taking out the high when the strongest, or one of the strongest names, was still in that consolidation, which gave you the entry point on the consolidation, give it back to that low just in case it happens to break down, and then hold through. Now this is where I get a little too structured with the trade sometimes. I'm accustomed to that counter trend, pull back to VWAP, have your targets in mind. So as usual, I go first out, right in front of the high, and then next level up. What am I looking at? I'm looking at that failed move at 50, which a lot of times that's a short setup. So I got my target on 50 even, which has gigantic size on it, not that it mattered, and I get out in front of 50. And this is the problem with that trade. It's not just that oil is super strong. It's not just that you have a breakout that you want to try to extend. It's that I didn't zoom out. Candidly speaking, when I was analyzing this trade, I had my 15-minute, and this is all I was looking at. I was just looking at that channel. And it might make a little bit more sense to take things out when you're only looking in that channel thinking, it's been going up, it failed this range last time, you've got a nice clean break on, bag the win, move on to the next thing. Unfortunately, when you look at this in context, right, even getting a half or a third of the type of move that you had off 40 out of 50 would have been perfectly reasonable. And that's why you always say, when in doubt, zoom out. Understand the context of your move. How much should you expect to win? How volatile is the stock that you're looking at? You're not going to get that always from just looking at 1 or 2 days of trade. So it's a winning trade Occidental, but it was so much stronger than that, and it could have been so much better. This is why we always try to get better in our trading, guys. Analyze your winners critically, not just celebrating them.
Lots of moves in the energy market continuing here. In fact, MXC, probably something you've never heard of before, Mexico Energy Corporation. Tiny little microcap energy stock, all of them running right now. Trader Prad was talking about a few others, but CEI was Kamer Energy, another one. MXC, though, under a million share float, just got to all-time highs on the day. Oil ripping here as we head to the end of the week. That's the watch list, guys. We'll touch on a few things that were on the watch list this morning. If you joined us, as I mentioned in the pre-market, we were busy during the midday there doing some other things, and I missed this headline. But this happened, guys. Russia blocking Facebook apparently, so no access to Facebook anymore in Russia. I mean, it's been a red day anyways for FB here, but down 1.8 now, back to session lows for this thing as well. Kind of feeling like one of those days. Maybe we can get Arun's take here on the overall market, but kind of feeling like one of those days where nobody really wants to be long heading into the weekend.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just let Neil know as soon as he sat down, take a look at Indo, because obviously everyone's looking at energy, everyone's looking at oil. You may see that I'm actually long the oil futures contract as well. I'm long at 113.06, and that's why I saw it. I'm like, oh man, that's a huge pop because it happened right at 2 o'clock. So I'm like, oh, it's $1.50 in the money for the futures contract. I know Neil was tracking Indo, and Indo just took off. Indo's gone, as people in the chat were saying. So yeah, a lot happening right now. It's going to be an inverse relationship. As oil takes off, equity markets fall off a little bit here. Now we're coming back into this 43.05 area. So again, there's some support here, but I'm not interested in this market unless we're willing to go below 42.80. I've got a futures contract on the oil market, so I can figure out what I'm going to do with oil as we get near 230 because I don't really want to hold it as volume starts drying up, right? So I've already cashed them out. Actually, let me show you guys here. CLJ22. Nope, that's not CM. That is NYMEX. So you guys will see that, yeah, there you go. So that's me getting long, sitting through it a little bit, and then getting it out as it's running up. And now I'm just going to trail it out, get the rest out in the event it falls off. But hey, Indo still on fire. That could still be worked with. I looked at it quickly. It's got a crazy spread, but if you're willing to play the game, that could cash out pretty well.
So when you're not, like I was just doing the trade today, obviously, and I sit down, and the last thing you should ever do is sit down and punch into a position. Right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You should try to figure out what just happened. So I clearly just missed, like, it was at $40 when I got up. Like, wasn't it 40? I don't know,
yeah, it was 42? About $40. Yeah,
okay,
when
fine.
you got up.
So I see it at 49. I'm like, yeah, you know, wait around. Like, once it makes that break at 40, I'm like, don't touch it till 50. And then it's at $49. And I guess I could have just maybe punched in short, but it is, you know what? Forget about it. Like, you shouldn't do that kind of a thing. But that's what happens, man. These stocks are insane. And I know that MXC is doing some similar things, but this just got out of hand. Right? Like, this is 100% low float squeeze. You know, I've seen people with crazy target or crazy prices on here. Go take it, man. Like, when it does this, like, come on. Like, this is what, look at this. Look at the daily chart on this. If you are not taking your profit here, I don't know what you're even thinking about. Fine, even if it goes to like $70, I don't even understand why it hasn't halted at this point. And I feel like it's only going to halt to the downside if there is a halt coming in. So, you know, at this point, if you're not taking profit on long after you see a series of candles like that, I don't know what would get you out. But I would have likely been trying to short that one. Maybe I'd have 48.5 if I hadn't sat down and sort of been a little bit awestruck. Like, I didn't. Yeah, I'm a bit speechless because it looked like it was consolidating and setting something up there, and then made another $7 move because that's what Indo does. And have a look at that MXC because This is the new game. It's these low floaters that just seem to be going absolutely crazy. And then they have the extra catalyst of being in the right sector. And then there you go. Like, there's not enough shares to go around. Boom, there's your squeeze. This looks like it's the one where you could have that last capitulation some point this afternoon.
I do want to say one thing before we go back to Brendan. Keep in mind, guys, if these are all oil plays, oil closes at 230 officially, right?
Yeah.
So keep an eye out. 220 going into 230. Volatility is definitely going to be picking up on a lot of these names. And after volatility is gone, then you're just left with anyone playing just straight up, guess towards the end of the day, because equity is going to go on for another hour and a half. So oil looking to still going. It's at 114.27 right now, so it is still looking to go up as we're nearing the oil close in about 20 minutes. So keep an eye on volatility as we get to that 230 point.
All right, let's go to the travel group here. I just noticed, guys, IMPP starting to go here as well. Volume coming back into that one, which is another oil stock. But 1.5 million shares on the float for INDO as well. So no stopping that if it really wants to go. We were talking about travel stocks in the pre-market this morning and how they were showing some weakness as well heading into the open once again. And sure enough, we had just monster flushes on all of them, essentially. I just brought up UAL. I mean, they all look fairly similar, but it was just nothing but selling all day long. Here we are at day lows for UAL.
Yeah, so the travel one, and we'll talk about it. I'm not going to use it as my frustrating stock of the day because I actually don't have any executions on CCL, which is what I was looking at this morning. Neil checked notes, fade 850 area. So this is my 15-minute chart and sort of what I was looking at. You had this gap down. On top of that, and this is, I'm in a firm, and the reason I'm in a firm is a very similar move here. So multi-day support on a daily chart being broken here at 18, coming and it's gapped down a little bit. So it's 1740. I'm like, okay, well, I like that 18 fall off. The only way to make that play is to short a pop and give it back to the afternoon top at 1850. So it gives you the move at the open. However, you know how 830 goes. There's not too many things you can be in at the same time that you try to play. So this goes up, quick spikes twice to 18. If memory serves, that is exactly what I'm getting wicked out of that AMD trade to the short side, which would have been fantastic, and precisely when I'm working the Rivian short, which I'm still in as well. So miss out on it completely. It falls off, is an all-day shorting opportunity. It's right back at that low. But the key, and I think you could pull up AAL, hopefully this will actually be true when I do this. Whoops, that's on the NASDAQ. If it'll actually load now. Now that I've done it wrong like the first time through, there you go. Yeah, AAL, pretty much the same story. Yeah, same thing. It was that multi-day support level broken. You get yourself that gap down, pop and fade trade. So it didn't matter whether you put it on in CCL, AAL, wherever you happen to find that pattern. It was good to go, and they both fell down and had been a short pretty much the entire day. We looked for it, but again, you have to have focus at 9:30. Like, you can't, being in 4 or 5 at once, if they do end up breaking out, that's a good way to get hurt. So you try to make sure you get the best setup or the one that you like the most. And Rivian had been pretty good the last couple of days. I tend to want to trade AMD every single day. We'll talk about AMD a little bit later when we go over some of our frustrating trades, I assume. But yeah, AAL, CCL, both names and both setups that we were looking at specifically for that drop-off, just, one too many shorts in the morning to try to add this one to the toolbox.
Well, travel names, you say? Yeah, I got one for you that could be a very big frustration. Boeing, short, 184, or just underneath 184, got some at 182, and yeah, you see that exit right there? That's around 183.5, and we are trading at 180 now. So that's my big mistake for the day, getting out of Boeing. It is what it is, I guess, at this point. I mean, nothing I can do about it, but that is a travel name I was looking at. Boeing setting up pretty well. Hey, there's been some good moves, and there's been some I've played both ends of both extremes today. I've had some stellar entries, like the futures contract earlier this morning, and then I've had horrendous exits, like the Boeing exit, right pretty much where it turned around and decided to go another $3.50. So that's been the type of day I've had today. So hey, a net positive though. Futures coming back up. Our futures come back. Actually, I've got the wrong futures. No, we're at 43.03. I've got the crude futures up because I'm not trading equity futures right now. So I kind of moved over to the crude charts across the board. You see my board though, right? I've got Square short $5.50 in the money, AMD short $1.86 in the money, CRM, PayPal out roughly 50 cents. BABA long out 60 cents, and then we've got crude futures up $1.36. Hey, everybody wants to play Indo. I'm playing crude because that's what I do. Do I want to step into Indo at some point? Probably not. The game has already gone on Indo, I think. It's going to be, one, I'm sure you got to pay for shorts.
Yeah,
you can't really go for longs anymore.
No.
So I think the game is gone there, but I will trade crude futures going into 2:30. I think I'll give up after 2:30 though. Globex still goes on for a little bit after, but I think I'm going to be done with crude after we get to that close.
Two things before we move on here quickly. One, Indo did pull back, so like that was the short. I'm not sitting down and punching in 1 second after I sit down in my seat. It never makes any sense. But on the point of that Boeing, a lot of times when you make top wick or bottom wick getting out of a trade, it's frustrating, everybody hates it, but the truth of the matter is there's something about the way that you analyze that price range that was dead on in a lot of ways, right? Like I know that you execute out in a bad spot, but the area that you thought was of concern where there was going to be a decision to be put was pretty much dead right. So there's always something to be gained from making top and bottom wick. I always feel like you're getting somewhere if you pick the right level where action happened. The next thing is executing better off of it. Pulling right back into 40, you're seeing Indo happen. So, yep, that short would have worked. I hope people took profit on those longs. That's what it's all about. You know it's going to come back down at some point. We also talked this morning about from 2 to 2:30 when oil would be having the close at 2:30 and then slowing down in volume. That's exactly when Indo and IMPP have had their flushes. So there you go. I mean, Brendan talked about it as well with Michael Noss, our guest this morning. We went over that. I just wish I had the short myself.
Yeah, pretty impressive moves here, guys. I was just watching Oxy. I mean, multi-week highs. This thing was $38 a week and a half ago. I mean, we're coming up to $58 now on Occidental. Like, just crazy. 17% on the day. Back towards 115 for crude futures, as we said. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let's go on to Gap. Some of the retailers did at least try to bounce today, but it wasn't very long-lived. GPS was, decent, but again, all of these getting faded once again.
So, like, the thing with Gap, and we always talk about trying to have discipline and having outs and having a bit of a plan. So, Gap read was about 1,000 times worse than the AMD read, but Gap actually listened to my plan of action, therefore not going to be as bad as AMD. Now, obviously, we would have liked to do a little bit better with the dip, and we had one entry, sort of getting it in front of 15, and the plan was try to take a dip into the previous high, and then if it breaks that, we'll just get out. So we took the dip, it broke, we got out. There was a quick little reversal short that we're able to scalp some off there. Thank you very much, Pratt. I appreciate that, brother. Pratt went to Super Chicken, and I always want a few fries when he goes there, and he just gave me about a dozen, so that'll be tasty. But I did get a bit of a short position. I got out, scalped it. Then the next long, and the only place I wanted to defend was the 14 to 14.20. So I was looking at this cluster down here to make a defense. I wanted to be in a long in case there was a squeeze. So I wanted to find a long place, a place that I could get into that long, hoping there'd be consolidation, then looking for a squeeze to the upside on Gap. If you're wondering why it comes down, on the earnings report, we did mention that it was pretty mixed. The guide wasn't all that great, especially when it comes to some of the supply chain concerns. So there were fundamental reasons why it wasn't as good as being up 8%. I just figured there might be something of a squeeze there. There weren't too many things I liked to the long side. I was like, maybe this can squeeze, and then looking at some energy for longs. And outside of that, everything else I liked this morning was a short. I guess I should have added that one to the list. But all in all, not too bad because we're managing to take the hit. I don't know why that's not showing purple, but that was a short position. Scalp trade and then take the hit again. So we're not getting too stubborn about it. We're essentially trying to go 1-to-1 every time we scalp it out and then take the out when it's there, not really averaging in or just holding it until the cows come home or anything like that. But it was a frustrating one on Gap. There really wasn't any opportunity outside of like maybe the fail break to the short side.
Yeah, I didn't even bother looking at Gap. Gap wasn't a chart that I thought would be decent. I mean, obviously it had overnight movement, but we were just kind of like working, especially when you can't get into that area. Remember, we were looking at 17. Once we kind of fell off the 15s, we never got really into that 16. I was looking more so 1650, but nice little pop and then just a drop, right? Once it's gone, once you can't get this price around 16, it's not worth the risk at that point. Because remember, we were looking at the daily when this started, and It was a matter of, hey, what are we going to do once we get into this zone right through here? And 17 was the marker. Anything north of 1650, preferably into 17, would have been the location for a short. I think after that quick drop, I was just like, no. I had other things going on, and gap wasn't a priority. But again, now what it does, though, it sets up a nice little trade. Now you know the 17 is confirmed. Now you can look at about 1350, even the low, I would call it 13 even, as potential new trades. So we can mark those levels off and then leave them, put some alerts out, set it up for another day, and come back to it. And as I pop over there, crude almost at 115 now. So this crude long is $1.76 in the money, guys. Looking pretty good. That also means that INDO should be going up too, since
just bounced, yeah.
Yeah, so this should all be moving somewhat together, at least until 2:30. After that, I mean, they're going to do their own things, given that, well, equities are going to close at 4 o'clock.
All right, let's talk about Tesla here, guys. We had a bit of a headline this morning, a couple of them anyways, involving Elon Musk. There was another one that came out midday. The water permit, apparently, for their new factory has been delayed, so there was a bit of a spike on that to the downside. There was no mention as to how long the delay will be or when this will be cleared up. So back to the downside here for Tesla. I mean, it is still just now going negative on the day, so it was still positive, but a bit of a back and forth kind of day for Tesla. 850 up here, a definite level.
Yeah, so, I mean, I was looking at Tesla, and I today actually did kind of want to trade in it on the short, actually, is obviously because everything was a short this morning. But I had the channel as this 850 to 860 area, so when it pressed, it didn't quite get high enough to get me into it. So, you know, sometimes that's going to happen to you. Like it goes to 855, so you could make the argument that, you know, that was right in the middle. Usually, a lot of times I'll take that trade, but it's just one little tick up into that midpoint, and then it flushed. So I obviously am going to end up having missed out on Tesla. And the upside of a trade like this, like we have such a defined top end of the range. Like Tesla's put like multiple tops of that 885 to 890 area below that 900 ceiling. You see what happens when it does give it up, but it's not clean in that price range. Like every time it gets down here and fades, it's really choppy. And that's why when it came in, I wouldn't have just shorted in front of 850. Like it's a good level and it's a good price area. But if you look at what happens in the past, it's not going to be clean through that range. So you kind of know you have to let it glide in there and then try to work that trade out. A couple of things I will go over this because I don't know if we're going to cover them. So I do have positions on from the morning that I am now holding. One was a firm. We talked about that multi-day all-time low $50 break. It actually broke 50. Didn't break it yesterday, but it broke 50 in the pre-market. So it actually, you know, at the open, you could still take the 50 break, and then when it tried to pop and reclaim the highs, it was a re-entry. I've had it all day long. I said, I'm waiting around for 45. Give me 50 to 45. It's an all-time low. And no reason to get out of it at this point. The market trending back down. We're at the lows here with the market actually making a higher low. That's one thing I like. And then the other one is going to be a firm. And this was more the multi-day breakdown, right? Like I see a level like that 37.50. You know, it's been sitting around here. It tried to break back out, made like a quadruple top, and then broke that down today. And this is another one. I'm holding out for 35 on this, so I'm shooting for 2 to 2.25 on the final part of this trade. Finally holding on to it. Like this is one of those, when in doubt, I know that I've been pretty successful finding shorts in a firm, and these multi-day level breaks are just gold. Miss V?
Hey Neil, we've got a super chat from Ali Anwar. Is there a subscription I can pay to get Arun levels on a daily basis? I made 8,000 odd puts from your NVIDIA and SQ levels. They were immaculate. Well, Ali, thank you so much for a super chat. Good news for you. You don't need to pay. Just tune in every morning at 9 a.m. for Arun's update. And yes, Arun is the GOAT, guys, and we really would appreciate if you smash the like button. If you appreciate all the work here on Trader TV Live team. Back to you guys.
So, I mean, exactly. Arun gives his levels free for everybody to look at every single day at 9 o'clock. Now, if you wanted to, I mean, I could shoot you my account, and then I could just, any point during the day, shoot me some cash, and I'll just text Arun or message Arun and be like, yo, what's up, man? What are your levels? I'm looking at this. And then he'll send it to me. I'll pretend like it was me, and I'll send it to you, and then you hook me up. But no, it's free every single day. And on top of that, I know sometimes when Arun's not hosting the show, he'll be busy. But a lot of times someone will ask, is there a level he's looking at? Well, one of us can just pop into the chat and say, Arun, hey, anything you see on the ES or the NASDAQ, quick little response, and he'll give you the gold. He's been trading futures for, I don't even remember how many years now.
Yeah, it's been a while. I don't even know anymore.
12?
It's under 10, I think, because I've been trading for 16, but I haven't been trading futures the entire time.
Okay.
So it's been under 10. But Ali, thank you. I'm glad you guys made money. It's not easy to follow someone on YouTube, but hey, this is what I do. This is, I'm not on social media. So anytime I'm on the show is the only time you're going to get my levels, apart from the futures at 9 o'clock. But in terms of stocks, I'm primarily a futures guy. So when I do step into stocks, it's only really for this show. If I'm on my own, I'm kind of just doing my futures thing. Crude, by the way, I'm trying to get out in front of 15, by the way. Crude and then S&P futures. We can do that every day, 9 o'clock. But in terms of social media and access, yeah, I'm not really much. You really can't get a hold of me outside of this show because I guess in a way, I'm exclusive to this show, right?
Yes.
So yeah.
I believe you are.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm not doing anything else.
We're not losing you. I don't know what, maybe you could tell me, but maybe it's just a technical bounce. There was a little bit of a bounce in the futures. Thankfully, thank goodness, Affirm did absolutely nothing on that bounce. Rivian's bouncing off 47, but there was a little bounce off the low once again, so maybe only about 30 or 40 points. I guess it's not that extreme, but it was on the ES right at 4,300. That's the only reason I'm sort of noticing it, so I'm just going to do this. It's a little bit easier for me to just throw up the chart on the side. Yeah, we just bounced off 4,300, about 20 points. It's still the downward trend that we're working with, but it's finding some support overall. So, I mean, obviously, I would have seen Tesla probably make a bit of a bounce. Indo's still above 40. We'll watch.
I do want to say one thing before we go. I'm flat of crude. I got some out in front of. I got the rest of it out. Actually, let me pull up the chart so you guys can see it. Given that essentially crude officially closes, majority of the volume drops off at 2:30. Right? It still trades on Globex, but at the same time, I don't want to be stuck in a low volume environment. So there you go. Guy, this is going to be hilarious. So that's my long right there, 113 and change. Got some out as we were running up into 114, and then got the rest out just now, right in front of 115. We should be closing up in 3 minutes. After that, it could still go, but volume's going to be dead for the most part. So I'm going to walk away from crude. I've made my money on crude. I've made my money on the futures too, which is going to be the next thing I'm going to look at. Let's take a quick look. Now that I've finished this position, let's go back to crude to this here. Yeah, we're not going to do anything unless we get through 80 on the futures, or we get into the 40s again. But we'll wait for S&P to do something else before we step in.
All right. If you remember, we saw that pretty impressive sell-off yesterday about this time in oil markets. So stand by as we have a couple minutes left here for the trading session for crude. Let's talk about Ocugen here quickly. Had that on the watch list this morning after the FDA came out and said they were not going to approve Ocugen's vaccine for children. It was 12 and under, I believe. So this thing got flushed in the pre-market, went from 320 down to 220. We mentioned 285. Kind of funny now looking back at this. I mentioned 285. I got away from it, obviously, but that worked pretty well if you had a look at 285 today.
Oh my God, still.
What the heck, Brendan? Did you make a jillion on that? Like, I remember you saying 285, and I was like, yeah, I like that price area too, but I mean, it took all the way until noon for it to get there. That's the problem, I think, on Ocugen. But yeah, I mean, rewind the tape, guys. I remember Brendan, when he did the small cap recap, was talking about 285, and you had to be patient, but it got right there and is just grinding downside. This little consolidation, that could lead to something of a breakdown here. So anytime you reject at a key level on one of these small caps, and especially with bad news here, and then you pull right back in. Sometimes these little shelf breaks give you nice little winners. Now, you might not be looking to shoot for more than like 10 to 15 pennies on it, but on a $2.60 stock, that's not a terrible day trade. We're getting right to 230, and I know oil futures are about to close, and INDO just made another pump to the upside.
Yeah, because crude took off to 116. Another dollar.
Right at the close?
Right at the close.
Did you just get out?
I got out in front of 115, and then not too much longer than that. It's at like the high is 115.95, so it's still going as we get closer to 230.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just wow.
Yeah. Insane. What are we doing? OCGN?
Well, I mean, there wasn't too much there. Like, outside of Brendan making the perfect trade, and then I guess I kind of said I liked it too, and then I never put the trade on myself. So that would be on me. But it was lunchtime. It was a heck of a lot more interesting things, managing your shorts at that point. But yeah, that 45, we're at 230 hitting, and Indo just got back to 45. I was kind of hoping would press to 47. I think that would be a much more interesting short than $5 away from the high there, Brendo.
All right, frustrating stocks. It was one of those days where we had back and forth action pretty much right out of the gate all morning long, depending on what you were looking at. A lot of things just went directional immediately. But give us your frustrating stocks of the day, guys.
This is easy. If you're watching the morning show, you already know it's AMD. It's not even remotely close. So I like the AMD for the short. It's just been so weak recently. You have this, double top. It'll pull back to 15-minute. Like, it went parabolic off 100, got up to 125, and you're going to see it start to pull back in, puts in a lower high double top. Then you have a consolidation off the recent low at about 113. And then the bottom of this support area is about that 112. And it's right in that 112 that I was looking to fade off of because it was sitting at 110, right? So I'm thinking, okay, well, it's all the way down at 110. The pop's to 112, not the 113 high. The issue is at 9:30 or right before 9:30 is not the time to get run over. So on the 1 minute, which I'll go back to for the actual execution, you never, ever, and I mean ever, want a counter trend fill going into the open that looks like this. So yes, I was trying to short 111.50 in front of that 12 area, and I just left my order out there. And you could watch back and hear Arun cancel his offer. Right? Remember on AMD, he's canceling. He's like, whoa, what's going on with the chips? I'll cancel my AMD offer. I'm like, I'm a little bit higher. I'll still take it. Then you take it and get run over because it doesn't move the way you expect off the open. And then immediately it's perfectly valid. So it tries to get past the 113, which is the other top we showed on the 15-minute chart, falls right back into the breakout price, and guess where it bounces to? It then bounces at 10 o'clock right to 112, which was the original place that I was looking to short the thing. And then it falls all the way down $5. It's still a short. It's still at the low of the day. Sometimes you've just got to let things shake themselves out. Once something unexpected happens, cancel the orders, wait for it to settle down, and then see if what you were doing or wanted to do is still valid, which it was, could have got back in. Instead, I had moved on to other things, was just frustrated with AMD. It's now at the lows. I don't see a trade on this at this point because you're just essentially breaking down. This 15-minute does not want to load further. You're breaking down past this 107, and then the next stop seems like a 100 level. And I'm already riding some shorts with the futures making a higher low. I don't need to put a short on at the low of the day in AMD, but I also don't feel like defending that long trade. To me, it's just a hold your shorts into the weekend kind of play.
Yeah, well, I've got two, right? One of them is just outright, I want to say in a way, it's a poor management. If you can pull up my screen, guys, it's Boeing. It's my short on Boeing that was, below 184, got some out around 182. As it runs back up, I'm like, you know what, it's time to walk away from Boeing. And the fact that I got out right when it decided to turn. The reason I found this one to be quite annoying is because it's a multi-month break. I should not be tight with the stop that fast, because of what we're doing and because of the time frame that it's breaking out on. Although taking profit on targets is fine, but the management of something like this that's taken so long to develop has confirmed on the day. It's just one of those things. I had a ton of shorts go at the moment. I was like, okay, let's lock in some things. And Boeing just happened to be, if I'm managing this, this is where I will put the stop. Yes, but then when you look at the daily, you're like, this is a multi-month move. You got to sit a little bit further back. You got to get a little bit more space. So in Boeing's case, I think I just got caught up in the fact that I wasn't looking at, or I forgot what the main idea was when I took the short, which was a multi-month move. So in that case, Boeing is going to be the frustration for the management portion of it. And then Marvell, well, yeah, as we were talking about chips earlier, I like 64, got out at 66, it went as high as 68.50 and then came right back down all the way to 63. Not the best of shorts, not because of the, well, it's not the best of exits, I guess, is what I would want to say, because I look at the daily again, I'm just like, man, you always got to analyze why this happened, right? And I look at this, I'm like, okay, I know why I wanted to go short. The short made sense, but at the same time, should I be actually getting out at 66 given how much consolidation is happening around 68 into 70? If anything, the short makes sense if you're willing to take the 70 stop, but it doesn't make sense to take it at 64 at that price. So I should be sitting somewhere closer to 65, 66, risking 70 as the trade. So in that case, I think that one bugs me more because that's actually just a bad read, straight up bad read. That doesn't work out. I know some people are just like, well, you know, if you guys are in the chat and you guys are looking at our trades, you guys are gonna understand that if you're trying to copy, you gotta copy every single trade at the same ratio, which is very hard to do. So you guys gotta always do your own analysis on the reads that we're putting out there, because we are taking them, but we have reads, we have different time frames, and we gotta be flat by the end of the day, and we also have different risk profiles, right? So everything's different, so always analyze the information, but then if it makes sense to you and it's within your risk parameters, then take it, but don't just copy for the sake of copying.
Yeah, great points. I think it's worth obviously listening and understanding the thought process behind it, but always do what makes the most sense to you and for your risk tolerance. I was just noticing RIG even 33 million shares now on RIG just made a high. So I mean, if you don't want to chase the more expensive ones, like this thing's $4. It was $3.70 this morning. Nice technical breakout. Even RIG up 10% as oil markets end the day here. Yeah, basically at highs, back above 115 for crude. So heads up on RIG. We're gonna have Frank Cabana from the Small Exchange coming up here in about 15 minutes, guys. We're gonna get his take on commodity markets and give you more options as to how you can maybe have a look at playing some of these if you don't want to deal with the futures, because they are very risky and very expensive to be involved with. So Frank Cabana coming up here in about 15 minutes. We'll talk some commodities with him.
Yes, sir. And so speaking of commodities, I just want to quickly go to that MXC, because I know we talked about INDO a little bit, and I don't think I actually went over MXC for the chart. It has pulled back with INDO and some of the other, I guess, high-flying names have pulled back a little bit. Oxy a little bit, but it's actually closer to its highs. It's finding some support above VWAP. This is still like a day one play, so trade a little bit more cautiously because it's the first breakout. INDO, I think it's easier. There's so many more people that are taking their profit on this because it's been a multi-day rally. I think that's probably the only reason MXC hasn't fallen further. If it takes out the high, or if it gets to the high again, I don't think it will, but if it does, I don't want to short this off of that high. I'd almost rather it break the top and then see if you can get in trapping some longs, because I just feel there might be some more bold traders to the long side that want to hold on to MXC. As much as I always believe these things usually go too far too fast, they're going to come back in. There has to be some caution. And just managing some of what I have here, noticing what's going on in the futures and the ES at that 43 level. It is worth mentioning, like Rivian down at this 47 is really making a bit of a base here at 47. So I've got my bid at 45.5, and I do think, like I said, that there's room to run, but I can't ignore this. I'm going to probably put in a trailing stop at some point if we bounce off 43 again on the ES. And if you're looking at the NASDAQ futures, it's about the same thing, like 13.75, like this lower high that we're trying to put in. I just want to see us churn through that. To see if we get some falls. But if we bounce off the same level again, I'm going to throw a trailing stop on Rivian. Affirm, that feels a little bit safer. It actually broke the low of the day recently at 36 and continued lower, so it's a bit weaker at this point than Rivian. So no trailing stop on that one.
All right, so obviously with the talk of oil futures, we keep talking about futures, especially when I'm on the show, we talk about futures more often. So quickly, what I want to show you guys is what I'm trading here is the E-mini contract. So I'll trade the E-mini S&P, so the ES March contract, H22 or H2. And I'm also trading the CLJ22, which would be the April crude contract, E-mini crude. That may, one, require too much margin. Two, may have too much risk associated, depending on the size of your account. Each penny in the crude futures contract, for one contract, each penny is $10. Right? So if you're taking a dollar hit on one contract, it's $1,000. So it's not obviously accessible for everyone. So what I want to suggest to you guys can obviously go with the ETFs, the oil ETFs, USO and whatnot, in Amex, or you can also look into the micro crude futures. MCL is the micro crude. You can go on CME Group's website. You can look for micro futures. The S&P has it, NASDAQ has it, and then they have it also for crude. And I actually don't know what the specs are. Okay, each penny is $1. So instead of each penny being $10 with the E-mini crude, each penny is $1, which will require less risk, require less margin, and will be tradable. Right, so tradable for everyone. It's more accessible. If you're learning to trade futures, my suggestion always, if you're gonna go down the road of trading futures and you don't want to do the ETFs, spiders and USO and whatnot, then start with micros first. Right, you're gonna lose money trading futures, obviously, as you learn how to trade it. So why not lose less? Right, it moves the same. I can actually pull up the level 2 for you guys. I'm gonna do it for the S&P just because crude's closed. Well, for the most part, its volume's dead anyways. CM, right? So this is what the S&P looks like. The ES, E-mini, this is the one I normally trade. You've got about 100 on certain levels, 20, 30, 40, 50 maybe throughout the board. And then the MES, which is the micro, has about the same, if not more, right? So they track each other. They're meant to track each other. They are one for one, except for the fact that one is just leveraged less. So just be smart about when you are going down the road of learning to trade futures that you start with the smallest risk possible, and then you go up from there, and then I guess you can graduate to the next futures contract, which could be the E-mini, right? So just be smart. There are tools out there. There are instruments out there. Just go look on CME Group's website, because all of these contracts are out of CME. Well, crude is actually out of NYMEX, but still, it's run through CME. So just be aware that just go on their website and look for that info, because it is there for you guys. And the other thing too is, if you hit specs, it tells you the details of the contract and what it controls. So 100 barrels instead of 1,000 barrels, and the time. Always be aware of the time when it closes. Always, because you don't want to get caught in something that's also settling. So always be aware of the conditions and the rules of the market and the, I guess, the instrument that you're willing to trade.
That's real big advice, right? Like it's so easy to chase volatility and just to simply see an opportunity and jump in and take it. But yeah, you always want to make sure what the expiry is there. A name that's moving big time, and thank you so much for pointing this one out here. I think it was Jason in the chat talking about KR. Oxy, Oxy looks like it's making a bit of a turn, and Kroger, which for different reasons is going a bit parabolic. I mean, they had a great earnings report, but they've been really breaking out the last couple of days. Like, look at that chart. If you want something that looks as good as Oxy on the daily, yeah, it's got to be Kroger. But if you look at the way this move has happened, the way it was going up yesterday, that's a little bit easier to take shorts at 55, right? Like, you look at that level. It then makes a clean break on that same level. Oops, probably should have looked at that. And now, what's $5 away from 55? Oh, wait, is this break? Is that 50 bucks? Is that 55? Is this just getting up to 60? It's close. It's not quite there, but you are starting to see signs. This consolidation, it made the top at $59, $58.98. You can see this consolidation. I'm usually inclined to allow it to break a shelf like this first before I get into a trade. That's what I'm going to do. We did this with, was it Bill? The one that was going absolutely parabolic that you were along all day, Arun.
Yeah.
And then in the afternoon show, it was just like, it had gone too far. And it had basically, it was way more extreme than this. It was up like 30% or whatever.
It was stupid.
But it had a shelf just like this top, and it was completely insane. And it wasn't like a low float or like short squeeze type play. And then the second it broke that low, it was just a retrace in the VWAP, and it was gorgeous. You can win both ways.
You know what's funny?
If you miss the long, don't chase the long. You got to short.
I was getting out as you were getting short. I remember that trade too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Coincidence.
It was coincidence. I was sitting over there, he was sitting here, and I was long all day. And then as I was getting out, he was on the short side. So essentially, the show caught both sides of the move, the long and the short, right at the end of the day. So hey, when you get a trade that runs, just let it run, because that's where you're going to make your money the easiest. Everything else you got to fight for. But those trades, those are easy. As long as you get those runners, you just let them go as much as they possibly can. As you can see, I'm letting Square go. AMD, somebody was asking about AMD. What's my target on AMD? I don't have a target. I've already cashed. This is not the AMD chart. Let's put up this one here. There. So I got no target. I'm short here. I've got some out already. We're going to let this one manage. We're going to let this one go, and I'm just going to manage it, right? I'm going to trail this. I'm thinking 108.50 should be a good point to kind of trail this out. But I've got no targets for it. If it wants to turn around right at the end of the day, then let it turn around. But I am going to let this one go. So we've got two big winners. Then we've got PayPal out 50 cents, BABA out 30 cents, and then CRM is bouncing on me. So that's out $1.60. But again, we've had some big winners on the future side of things. And it does look like with the equity market as well, hey man, we're dead center in the middle of this range. Intraday, I guess from 9:30 onwards, we're dead center. But if we get through those 80s, it could open the door. That's only 25 points away. If we get through those 80s, it could open the door up for some aggressive selling as we go into another weekend.
Brendo?
All right, guys, as promised, Frank Caberna back with us, head of content from the small exchange in Chicago, to give you some more options in ways you can express trades in these insane moves that we're seeing this week in commodities right across the board. Great to see you as always, Frank. Welcome back. What a week it's been. How has your week been, first of all?
It's been an interesting one for sure. Yeah, insanity is definitely the word for a week like this week in the futures world, especially the commodity futures world. As someone who sticks to mainly mean reversion, Brendan, getting on the other side of higher probability moves, a market that moves 2 standard deviations, 3 standard deviations, what its daily normal range is, I'm on the other side of that stuff. So not a great week for me when you look at crude oil. Some of these days, $4 moves, $5 moves right now looking like they're going to close out the week on the highs above $115 a barrel, a place, Brendan, that we haven't been at all since 2010 until now. The high in crude has actually been 114 and change right now as we speak, breaking that upside. So for me, not the best week, but have had plenty of weeks prior to this where markets have moved outside and come back. And I think there's opportunities for both the trend follower and the contrarian in a market like we're seeing here when you talk about not only oil, but metals and wheat and a bunch of other commodities, and also hopefully people are getting in interest rates and FX, because that's been a hell of a trade as well, my friend.
Yeah, it's an important point I think that you make there, Frank, in the sense that we have all these other influences affecting what we're seeing this week outside of what normally happens. So we have to be able to be nimble and adjust as we go here. Let's talk a little bit about some options available for trade, and I don't mean those kind of options, but ways that we can portray, and look to trade these crazy moves. The small exchange offers multiple different contracts. We'll show the graphic here of the main 3 for this week, and talk a little bit about these moves here.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest 3 moves in the commodity space this week is going to be, first of all, and this isn't one that I don't necessarily, I would say the starter in the commodity space go to, but you've got wheat has been limit up multiple days in a row here. And actually the small exchange not providing those wheat futures quite yet. And part of the reason is when you jump into, Brendan, I'm sure you know this, you jump into some of these single name commodity futures, they can be a ride that everyday people coming from the stock world maybe aren't quite ready for. So what we do have that I think is very interesting is metals and crude oil. Now, crude can definitely move like that wheat, but hasn't shown that limit up action, hasn't been trapping traders in anything. And the small exchange, as you might have thought with our name there, we've created small oil futures and small metals futures that have actually gold and silver in them, diversifying in that precious metals space. So even when you get these outliers, Brendan, like we've seen throughout the last, call it 2 weeks of action here, you're getting small, at least starting out, and you can scale into whatever size you want. But you definitely don't want to be jumping into a market like crude oil, a market like gold, and definitely not a market like wheat this week in a big size and a big traditional futures market. So definitely have that here at the small exchange with our small oil product, with our small metals product. And then also we can maybe speak to, if we have time, some US dollar has been crazy as well, but all small markets from our small exchange that have margins ranging from a couple $100 to a little over $1,000, making those big outlier moves a little less risky than those traditional markets, man.
Yeah, some of the outside moves, as you speak of, just absolutely insane so far this week. It's impressive to see gold as well. As you mentioned, a few other things involved in that price movement in that contract, but not something that we've really talked about this week a lot. I just saw palladium as well was above 3,000.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely insane from where it was just going back to last summer. Anyways, let's shift focus here. Talk a little bit about the overall, indexes. I mean, obviously these geopolitical type headlines and influences, as we've been talking about, not going anywhere anytime soon. Where do we look to, take advantage of these moves in the meantime?
So we've been having a lot of success with intraday trading, day trading, as I'm sure your audience is aware of. And just like you said, honestly, another key word when you've got insane markets, nimble is the key word for your trading. And so we've had great success getting on the other side of these outlier moves, but trying to peel off something that's realistic, that's reasonable when a market punches through, like crude oil this morning, punching through that 113 level, overextending, and then actually collapsing back down to 110. That's a great opportunity in there, even in a market that, as you can see here, it looks like a straight shot from 90 up to where it sits right here at 115. But I mean, the end of last week, you'll recall crude oil is actually selling off into Friday's close. Definitely different story this week, but a market that's ripe with intraday opportunity, as long as you're not getting caught up in the traditional futures markets. I mean, today is $7 crude in your CL futures. That's $7,000. I can't foot a day trade like that that's moving through me enough. But something like SMO, Brendan, like I sell a little bit early. Maybe the market's up $3. I'm there early. I take a loss $100 later, which is just $1 in crude oil. And I can get back into that market, get back to scratch, even get back to profits on the day trading action that we're seeing. I mean, especially last week, and I think one or two scenarios this week, Brendan, we've seen huge rallies, huge sell-offs, and the market coming all the way back to unchanged. Very rare action for the day trader out there. So I would definitely advocate for being nimble, but jumping on the other side of some of these moves or riding with them if that's your thing, because not only crude oil, but the metals space as well, been getting back to those levels like you quoted there that we haven't seen since the height of the pandemic, as gold gets close to 2,000. When we're at these extremes, Brendan, that we haven't seen in years and years and years, especially crude oil. Like I say, the highest prices right now we've gotten since before 2010. That's when you start to see mispricing. That's when you start to see a market that jumps up 1 or 2% and then reverses quite quickly as traders are like, I don't know where the hell to put this thing. And that's where day trading opportunity really kicks in for someone like myself.
You mentioned the strength in the U.S. dollar, unbelievable moves to the upside today. Again, the euro just coming the opposite direction, back to the downside as people, the flight to safety continues here. On the other side of that are also treasuries coming back down this week, back to, in fact, weekly lows here for the 10-year, basically as we speak, as obviously we're a week away from the Fed meeting, which everyone is expecting still a quarter-point move for the Fed on interest rates back to the upside. I'm going to show the U.S. dollar here, and then maybe let's follow it up with a look at the Treasury as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, that U.S. dollar has become, for all intents and purposes, almost like a smaller version of stock volatility. You're seeing that U.S. dollar spike almost every time you're seeing VIX or whatever stock vol model that you're looking at spike as well. And I really love foreign exchange markets, Brendan, for a time like this because of the fact that there's a lot of just information that comes out that, oh, this is good for the euro, this is bad for sterling, this is good for Japanese yen. And at the end of the day, you'll see a lot of these FX pairs cancel out a little bit. And so this is really one of my go-tos from a mean reversion side, is selling into some of the strength in US dollars, but then also picking up some US dollars on weaker moves when you see that euro and sterling start to bounce back. And this SFX is really nice product to get your hands a little bit dirty starting out with futures, given that the margin just about 200 or so bucks, a market that moves about $50 notionally on a given day. Today's outlier move, market's up $62 even at those highs in USD. So a nice small market to, like I say, kind of trade with or against volatility. It's been highly correlated to stock volatility. And then you have this 10-year yield market, man. Just when you thought it was safe and yields were going to go ripping higher than 2 and even 3%, all the way back to 1.75% here today. Huge move lower in yields, and a great spot, I think, if you were looking to, in the long term, grab some long interest rate exposure. This is a really nice reversal to get long into. If you saw, oh man, 10 years got up to 2% a couple of weeks ago, and you were kicking yourself for not grabbing some of that. And everybody's talking about Fed Chair Powell is going to be hiking so aggressively and everything else. A more than 10 basis point move lower in 10-year yields just today, reversing back to almost 1.7% even, letting you get into some of those long yield positions that you maybe missed out on a couple weeks ago.
And when we think about the 10-year, obviously, we're going to get CPI on the 10th coming up next week. I said next week for the Fed. It's the 15th, obviously, when we'll get the interest rate hike. What do we look for then, heading into that, heading into a brand new week on Monday? Obviously, no one knows what's going to happen over the weekend over in the Ukraine with this whole situation, but more opportunities to come definitely next week.
Yeah, absolutely. I would expect that the trends that you're seeing take place will probably continue. And what I mean by that is if there's more fear in the market, you're going to see these commodities move higher. It's a funny thing that when you talk about fear or risk off action, Brendan, it's usually to the tune of like, okay, gold and bonds. Those are the markets I'm primarily looking at. Now, those markets are moving, but crude oil and wheat and some of these other names have really been, for lack of a better term, like the real flight to quality assets when fear kicks in. Now, if some of that fear bakes out, Brendan, then you're going to see those markets move lower, stocks maybe regain some of their strength. But what's really interesting is there is almost a little battle taking place between, this may sound funny, but between Putin and Powell in terms of every ounce of fear that Putin puts into this market brings interest rates lower. But we saw actually midway through this week, even as fear is building, when Powell comes out and talks to bullishness in rates, that they're monitoring Russia and Ukraine, but still thinking about hiking rates, those interest rates popped pretty good midweek. And so it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic continues. I think that if some of those Russian-Ukrainian tensions ease up and we get some, inflation numbers speaking to rising rates, and we get speak from some of the Fed chair people on bullishness, hawkishness in the rate environment, you might see those yields really pop.
Yeah, going to be an interesting week. As always, Frank Caberna, head of content at The Small Exchange, guys. Go check them out. Website at the bottom of the screen there. We appreciate your time as always, Frank.
Thanks, Brendan.
Have a great weekend. Interesting couple of notes there, guys, going into what's going to be an important week. Obviously, next week, as I said, no one knows what's going to happen over the weekend as far as these headlines out of the Ukraine go, but more moves to come, without a doubt, next week.
Yeah, this volatility ain't going anywhere, and it's going to be insane over the weekend. You're going to be watching headlines. You're going to be looking at the price of oil, hopefully not staring at the price at the gas pump because that'll just make you feel upset, but not much we can do about it. There is this weird barcode. Well, it's not weird. There's just, look at the barcode going on here, and this is Rivian for me. Like, I should be happy that it's paying $4, but like the day trader means, like, why would I not be getting out of this thing? We're testing 4,300 again. It's the same old story. And by the way, just gonna throw back Indo up because Arun and I were just talking about this. Remember we were saying 2 to 2:30, like 2 o'clock, volume slows down in all futures, and at 2:30 when they close, some of these start to roll over. Yeah, Indo started to roll over and continue to roll over. So it's back down at 36, still incredibly strong, but this is why we opened the show saying take profit if you're long in this thing. What would you need to see to do it? And also Kroger, we did mention it. I said if it broke that 75, I would get in. It's not really doing much. I mean, it's gone in the money like 5 or 6 cents at a time, but it's still barcoding. If the futures break the low, which it looks like we just broke 4,300, maybe that'll get me a little bit of an out down towards 58. I would hold on to some of this just to see how far it can go, given that we're now entering power hours, so reversals might have a little bit more room. It's really just about ringing the register, or where you ring the register, anything you're deep in the money on. And I still think it's a fade the pop situation on Indo and IMPP. That MXC, I think that the only reason it's a little bit different, whoops, that's on the AMEX. The only reason it's a little bit different, it is day one, but it is fading pretty much the same way. So you can look, they're all following essentially lockstep, not too much of a differentiation between them. If you're looking for places maybe to catch a bit of a dip buy, if the market can try to hold up here, I'll tell you right now, I'm managing 3 shorts, and I'm not really looking to do this. But I'm looking at Microsoft 287. It's a random price. As the futures bounce off that low, it does give you the chance, if you can't trade futures and you're looking for an equity name that you maybe want to take a bounce on, that could be it. I'm not liking it. I love the shorts we have on right now. It's just about managing them and getting some profits. Brendo?
Yeah, quickly, guys, we mentioned that Facebook headline off the top there, Facebook getting blocked in Russia. I guess it's no surprise. Now they're saying that Twitter as well, not going to be, Twitter has been restricted in Russia. So big move down for Twitter. Not a big move, but negative anyways for Twitter, guys.
I guess that's not a surprise. The same way that you're seeing, this corporation says they're not doing, not doing this in Russia. You're going to get these down the line. Facebook, what an ugly chart. I mean, yeah, it's just been an absolute mess since earnings. It really hasn't been able to break out of this trend, and now you run into a situation where the next 2 weeks, when we get the rate hike, you're going to be retesting potentially these lows, these 190s. And Facebook, it's in a world of hurt, and they're in a world of trouble. Yeah, come on. Rivian now really trying to go. So finally, I've been waiting for the shelf to get broken. Well, I mean, it already broke the shelf on the daily, but I've been waiting for this to finally take out this pre-market low, 46.65. It's now 10 cents away. It's breaking the consolidation to the downside. I got a firm $2. Got this one. And I still actually like INDO. Not INDO, IMPP. It's been just as good as INDO. It just feel like something that's a little bit cheaper in terms of risk to reward. I mean, these still move a heck of a lot. It's IMPP, not IMMP. I always mix it up because it's an actual stock. This is a little bit closer to its high. So I'm talking this 285 when at 230 it made a top and rolled over, just like INDO did. This is close enough that if it makes another move up, really you could risk 5 to 10 cents popping into a 77, 78 range and then fade off that high just the same way you would in INDO and maybe be able to manage the trade a little bit better. Whereas in INDO, you could be risking $5 or $6. And if that's not your cup of tea, there is IMPP as well, which I'm looking at.
Well, futures all over the place, right? We've seen this all day for the most part. Futures kind of swinging one direction, turns around 10 points instantly, goes in the opposite direction. It was just at 42.95. Now here we are at 43.03, bouncing hard too. I mean, this is expected. If you've been trading all day today, this is what you've been dealing with in terms of market volatility and market movement. Now, I've got, as Neil was talking about, he's got 3 shorts. Yeah, I've got 5. I've got 5 shorts, and 2 of them are deep in the money. One somewhat flat, or 2 of them are somewhat flat. I mean, 16 cents, I consider that to be flat. And then CRM is out $2. Fine. But at the same time, and then I've got the one long. But here's the thing though, like futures, with the futures doing this, these could all turn around at the same time, or these could go all go in the money at the same time. So what you have to look out for is what's the read, or why are you taking the daily trade, or the trade based on the daily chart. Now I look at the daily chart to kind of figure out what I want to do. I just took a Roku short, by the way, just underneath 122. So that's my latest entry to my short stash. So we've got 5 now with 1 long. No futures trades just yet. And as I was mentioning on Prad's show, let's take out 80. If we can get through the low, and I'm not going to take it on a break, I'm not going to just instantly step in, but I do want to see a trade south of 80. Then we can step in and maybe take a shot on the short side. But either go for the short down to the 80s or go for something above 40. That's it. Everything in the middle, I'm not rushing to get in. There are opportunities in stocks. Square, that's one that's deep in the money. I'm managing that. That seems to find some stability around this 106 area. So I think if we can get above 107, I'm going to walk away from that one. CRM continuing its run, so that's probably going to run me over, by the way. And then AMD was just at its lows at 107, and now it's at 107.50. We're trailing this one north of 108.50, so that one's going to lock in some profit. We're short down all the way up at 109.5, so I mean, that's going to do its thing. I'm not worried about the ones that are in the money or the ones that are somewhat flat. I mean, there really isn't a whole lot I can do. At this point, with oil futures closed, or no, not closed, but volume has died off after 2:30. That's expected, right? So with oil somewhat quiet now, I think. Is it quiet? Yeah, it's kind of died off above 115, and that's expected. Now it's all about the equity game. Going into a weekend, what do you want to do? How is this market going to respond to a market? Like, how's the market going to respond? It's down 1.25% on the S&P and 1.75 on the NASDAQ. Are we going to extend to the sell side, or are we going to actually do a reversal? Given that we're kind of range trading, it could go either way. You'll see how this ends up, because we'll be here until 4 o'clock. Till then, Valeria.
Hey Arun, hi Guy on the chat says, where is Miss V so I can like? So hi Guy, here I am. So this is the perfect time for you to smash that like button. Team, if you're waiting for me, please do it right now and support the community. 1K likes would be great. And again, Arun is with us, and we know how much you like futures reports from Arun. Back to you guys.
Oh, you know what else we can like? I promised we'd tee this up, and I actually had a chance to talk to the newest trader on the floor. We've talked all week long, even last week, about how Greg, the floor manager, is back to hiring. We put his email up, people to apply. Well, we already actually had in our last training group somebody who was a fan of the show and had watched the show for over a year. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if you can even see him. Ian, here he is. I don't know if you can see, there's Ian. He's the newest member of the trading floor. Give a wave there. Been watching the show for a year. This is in the GTA. He actually just started today trading on the floor. So hopefully we have a heck of a lot more of that. That's what's great about this, is like this is a trading floor. We're trying to give you the perspective of different traders and what you would usually get when you have different people out there, different sets of expertise where you can bounce ideas. That's what we've always been trying to build. But it started from us all experiencing that on a day-to-day basis with everybody on the floor. So it's so fantastic, honestly, just to be able to. Heck, man, even get out, like going to the basketball game the other day, getting people back on the floor. I'm ecstatic. I can't believe we're finally here. I did just get IMPP 275. I said that's where I had started, in front of 85s. I'll get on the bid down close to once it gets in the 60s, I'll start bidding this one out. But starting to work as that pumps back up, try to get a lower high there. Unfortunately, I was just getting excited about Rivian. It's like, yeah, it might break that low. And then another bounce. So at this point, I'm sitting in the short from this morning, and I have no reason necessarily to get out of it. There was just another spike. So I got into IMPP when INDO just spiked up to 45 there. Look, it's a similar thing. They're both the same lower high. One's just far more controlled and a little bit more reasonable in terms of the way that it's moving. So that's the one I'm deciding to trade here. And as the market bounced, that I was looking for my short trades and looking to get into a couple of other ones. If you like the 87, then congratulations to you. Do yourself a backflip if you took it. There's a scalp trade, for a $1.50. If you like Microsoft, like I said, I have 4 positions on. They're all to the short side. Adding to it at this point, going into power, I think doesn't really make a heck of a lot of sense. I'm going to try to stick to what is working and work on these trades. I've seen a lot of people talking about CEI, about Camber Energy. And basically, look, a lot of these energy names are getting big moves. Come on, this chart doesn't want to load here. It is actually moving. So I know these penny stocks, a lot of times we'll ignore them because there isn't any volume. But essentially the same thing that we've been observing, a top between 2 and 230, and then at 230, a lower high. I might as well be showing you the INDO chart. 230, a lower high, and then a capitulation. And then just now, when I'm getting into IMPP, which is putting in the lower high, and INDO pops to 45 even, guess what? It puts in the exact same lower high. These charts, I'll show it right next to you. This is INDO. There's your top. Boom, 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 boom. So if you're not watching these together, I don't know what it is that you're doing, because it's basically the same phenomenon over and over again. Low float, small cap, penny stock, in the energy space, nonsense happening, and they're all just moving in lockstep. A lot of times it can be an algorithm involved that maybe is supplying liquidity in a similar fashion so that the patterns are the same. And there we go. We'll take our first leg out. Oh, I almost did it. I almost hit the congratulations one. I'm not going to hit that Bitcoin congratulations when we're breaking 40,000 to the downside. We'll save that for days that Bitcoin's doing well. But yeah, we just got into that IMPP consolidation, and I think it gets a chance to get down into VWAP. So next outs will be around this 55 to 60, and then down towards 250 for VWAP. And whether it's CI, look, it doesn't really matter whether it's CI. You want to trade something that's cheap. You want to trade something that's super expensive like INDO. The principles are overall the same thing. That's why I wanted to show you those charts. I mean, they couldn't have been more identical.
Yeah. Going back to what you were saying about the trading floor, I mean, all these chairs behind us, all these stations behind us, they used to be full. Like, this was full. It was a full office. And obviously things have changed, and now there's a lot of empty seats. A lot of guys are at home as well. It doesn't necessarily mean that no one's here. It just means some people are at home as well. Yeah. But now we're starting to bring people back in, like Neil's been mentioning, I'm sure, all of last week, and also the guys, both of them. Hey, Greg's hiring right now. So if you guys are in Toronto or within the GTA and willing to put in the work and come through, just send an email, send your I guess your resume and whatnot, and we can figure that out from that side of things, because these stations, they're just sitting empty, and there's chairs. Well, there should be chairs somewhere. There's chairs.
Chip in a chair, right?
Oh, there you go. Mark says next week the chairs are coming in. So I think we got rid of all the old chairs.
Oh, they're sitting in the other side of the office. Yeah.
I was excited there for a second because I took one of the new chairs.
The same ones there.
I took one of the new chairs, and now it got stolen by one of the other guys. But all the old chairs are sitting on the other side of the office, and those are coming back in. And since I'm here, and I don't really play around with the animations too much. I'm not going to hit any of the animations for Sean, or Sean's animations. All I've got is futures, right? All I'm going to show you is the 44 short. I'm going to go over this because that's the only real big trades I've made. I mean, I've got the square and whatnot, but I care more about my futures trades because that's what I do, right? Futures, 44 short, 21 exit, 21 exit, 2 exits. Let's go. There you go. That's your hit there. That's your sniper shot on that one. And then we're going to go with, hey, why not go to crude? 113 long, 114 out, 115 out. And we're going to do it again. If we can do it again. Oh, there you go.
There you go.
And then we're going to do it again. And then after that, I don't really care.
So cuddly, and you shoot it.
After that, I don't really care. Because that's all that mattered. At the end of the day, all that mattered was the money from the futures. And now, hey, we're sitting $4.50 in the money on Square. AMD's $1.89, PayPal out 45 cents, Roku out 20 cents. Somebody was asking me where's the stop on Roku. It's north of 124, by the way. So I'm risking about $2 just to see what the close would bring. Usually, as we're getting closer to 350, there's also imbalances, right? So that's going to change the game a little bit in terms of volatility. So if we can get a downward move, downward flush, futures 43.05 bounces off that 43.95 or 42.95. So still not a whole lot going on, but I think if we can get below 90, we can start looking at that 80. And if we can start looking at that 80, you're going to start to see tech move too, right? So that's what I'm banking on at the moment. So for now, the Roku short, the PayPal short, the two that are out of the money by 20 and 50 cents, not too worried. CRM, I have zero hope for CRM. CRM chart looks like this. I got short, you guys can see it? Yeah. I got short, oh, you can't see it with the banner, but I got short right near the bottom underneath 200, and it went there like a couple times. It spent a few minutes there and then bounces, and then since that point, 200's held as a decent strength, strong point. So I have very little hope that CRM is going to come back in, but hey, there's enough winners on the table that I can take that hit. And then Baba long as well. I don't mind Baba on the long side. It's struggled quite a bit today, south of that 100 marker. So the fact that I'm long around that 101, I'm okay with. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But again, that's just trading, right? You play the law of averages as long as your winners or you have more, not necessarily more, but as long as your winners are bigger than your losses and they're at least 50-50, at the very least 50-50, then you should be just fine. Brendan?
In Kroger, guys, we were talking about some retail names, this one as well. On CNBC currently, just a heads up, KR, this is all-time highs up here for Kroger. Remember, earnings yesterday were better than expected for this one.
Oh, it's always good luck, or I almost said Arun. Well, I did say everyone. Good luck, Brennan. He mentions Kroger, CNBC talking about Kroger. That's nice. It's starting to try to roll over here. I've been sitting in this one for the greater part of a half an hour waiting for this to happen. Look, obviously you're in a consolidation at the top. We can be patient with it, but it's gotta take some time. I just don't want it to take more than the next 25 minutes when imbalances are 35 minutes when imbalances come out, when the stock has been this ridiculously strong. And is it Airy Pages? You have a great idea here, but I'm gonna pump the brakes because there was some chatter today about what we could do next. It's Trader Pratt, Platinum Pratt, with the hair for the likes. You guys know all about that. But you said 3.5K likes for the midday show, and Platinum Pratt wears a fat suit for 1 week. Now here's the thing. I got to put the kibosh on that. I suggested that he just has to rap like some 90s hip hop or something, pick a song. I'd pick a song, or you guys pick a song, because that's fun. But sitting in a fat suit, like, he still has to trade, right? Like, we're like live trading here. That would not be very comfortable.
No.
Be pretty impractical. We can't do things like that. We can do lots of fun stuff, but that's the level of extreme that we can't pull off because he still has to do his job, and it wouldn't be fair. As hilarious as it would be, don't get me wrong, I would love to see it. We just can't accommodate something like that. So, the suggestions, we love them, and we love to have fun with things like that, but we probably can't have anybody in a fat suit while they're trying to trade. I definitely am on board with picking, like, just an absolute classic 90s hip hop song, because he never seems to know any of them, and then have him drop some bars for you guys. And I think he'd be willing to do that. But that's just my 2 cents. You guys let me know what you think he should do. But it's 3.5K likes. I don't know why it's that number and not a round number, but that's what they came up with.
Okay, it's because Pratt initially said 5K. I'm like, well, you only have, like, in terms of viewers, we were able to get 3K likes on like 3,800 viewers. So we got to go up from 3K, and I think that's still doable.
Unless we can get some more viewers. Guys, get the word out. Let's get some more viewers so we can actually get this number higher. But definitely, I think 3.5K with 3,800 people watching, at least at that time, it's a tough thing to do. So we're definitely going to need to put in some work. Obviously, the blonde hair, Platinum Pratt is in the house. And Platinum Pratt, it sounds like, he's not here right now, he's probably eating super chicken. But it does sound like Platinum Pratt is a much better trader than normal Pratt. So I think it's helping his case. He's looking good, he's feeling good, he's confident. He said girls are coming at him and he's shutting them down. Everything's going good for Platinum Pratt right now. So we're definitely going that direction. We're going to keep Platinum Pratt as long as possible. Once he gets the frosted tips, though, he's going to start wearing bowling shirts, and he's going to say, "Welcome to Flavortown." But we'll get to that when we get to that. But I think that's next on the deck. That's next on deck as his hair evolves. I think we will evolve with his hair on what happens around Platinum Pratt.
Arun got jokes, man. I like it. I'm down with that. You're killing me, man. Yeah, like, now you guys are getting out of hand. Steve G, Fat Suit and Practical now with 2-2. I mean, yeah, kind of practical. That would actually work. I mean, it's not really impeding your ability to do anything. So we'll let him figure that one out there. Platinum Pratt, he's such a great sport. That's what I love about it. He does such a great job giving you his journey of trading. And speaking of the journey in trading, there's still a market happening here, and it is bouncing. We're back above 4,300, and we're going back and forth, back above 4,300. The NASDAQ at the same low, it's like a 13,750 or whatever on the NASDAQ futures. And so Microsoft's continuing to make its bounce. And again, like I said, I'm in the short trades. Finally, KR's starting to roll over that Kroger trade. But this off 287, for whatever reason, has looked pretty good on Softy going into this power hour. Just keep in mind, for everything, over the weekend risk is intense with some of these moves. And we're still in that heightened sensitive environment, of course. I forgot all about Oxy when I got into the Kroger trade. And you know what? Sometimes you forget about a stock, and it's like the best thing that can happen to you. Because I was looking to fade this off of 56. Like it had this break at 56 even, was grounding to the top. It's like, okay, all futures closed, Oxy's gonna pull back. I put the Kroger trade on, forget about it. I would have just flat open stopped out. I'd be out of it and be another loser on Oxy after getting out of the long too early. But I'm not gonna fight this. It's the strongest thing out there, or at least one of them, and it's got oil futures behind it, headlines, momentum, everything you want for a long position or for reasons to hold. Like, were people confident to hold over the weekend in the strongest thing that's been out there, unless it's wheat, which, unfortunately, this was the one that we actually couldn't trade this for volatility reasons at the firm. But this went absolutely bonkers this morning. You know, this is the wheat ETF. I'm pretty sure it just holds like 3 different expirations of wheat contracts. So it's really just holding wheat futures. But wow, you're talking like 1280 to a 10 bottom, now bouncing to 11. So when we talk about commodity futures being nuts, that's why I'm glad we had our guest today from the Small Exchange, sort of discussing ways that you can make plays in some of these spaces. What an unbelievable move that was in wheat. If there's going to be a loser to be had, like I just said about the energy space, maybe it's going to be IMPP. There it is. I didn't average into this yet. I think it's some out there for a win, but yeah, I wanted to see it actually slow down and curl before thinking about adding to the short. And now that I see that, I'm gone. I'm out. $3 does loom on this stock, but this breakout, it makes absolutely no sense to me. So I'm not going to fight it. This is what's happening in Indo. This is what's happening in MXSC is actually, oh, wait a minute, this is breaking out as well. So Indo's not going and these two are. That's pretty interesting. I'm not going to, I actually was thinking about this at like $30 if it could have got there earlier and might have to revisit that. We still have 40 minutes to go, but if I see a move like this, once they start diverging, I don't want to be in any part of it. I think hunting for a higher price is going to make some sense. I'll be thankful that I was able to get some out when I made that first move, but we'll take the hit on IMPP and then hunt somewhere else. I think MXC, now that it's pushed through the high, the risk to reward can start to make a little bit more sense here. I mean, 26, I'm not going to randomly do, but 27.5, 30, those are 2 levels that I could wrap my head around here for a potential retracement short. Still only going to be looking for those shorts ultimately. And this is one that, you know, I think Brendan hunted out there and we sort of threw it into the chat in the midday show because it was a sympathy runner, right? And you can see what pretty much happened here. It did make a nice VWAP bounce. Maybe that was a good look. And this consolidation did have some volume. But for the most part, these have been fading this week in the last hour of the day, bucking the trend here on MXC.
All right, future. I'm just trying to figure out what the futures want to do, but they're not doing a whole lot. They're still flirting around that 4,300 mark. And then I'm looking over at my shorts there. Square still fine, AMD fine, Roku starting to go 25 cents now. PayPal coming back in, 45 cents out. CRM, again, like I said, I have zero hope for CRM to come around, but I'll hold on until we're done with, until we get at least until 350 or so, let the imbalances come out. Couple things. For anyone that's new, and this is like, oh, what are they talking about when it comes to imbalances? 350, there's information that comes out regarding order flow that needs to be executed on the close with the official closing price, right? So those are called on-close orders. Those are all sent into the data feed. Our system, if you're with Day Trade the World, we have an imbalance locator that allows you to show that. If I can actually, do I have the imbalance locator up? Yes, I do. So it looks something like this, right? I mean, right now it means nothing because there's no data coming in. 350, this gets populated with whichever market we're looking at. So we'll look at NASDAQ in New York. It'll show imbalances, meaning there's X amount of shares to buy on the close as of 350. It'll get updated until 355. And at 355, you'll get another update from the floor. And then that number sometimes gets bigger, sometimes it disappears. And then with whatever ends up at 355 in terms of imbalance information, that's kind of what you roll with until 4 o'clock. It tends to put pressure on, especially on names that have very low relative volume. So let's just say on the day it's done 4 million, but the imbalance is like 2 million. So half of the day's volume is trying to be done again on the close. So that's a big chunk of daily volume, right? At least for the day. So it tends to push up and put some pressure on the name. So we'll get you that information. I'm sure these guys do it all the time. But I just like to explain it every single time because a lot of people show up. Viewers are always changing, right? There's always new people joining, and that's part of the education aspect of this channel. So we always want to provide information. Anytime I'm here, I always try to put that information out there at the very least because it's easy to talk about it because we know what we're looking at. But if you don't know what we're trying to explain, then it's just going to run right over your head, and then it might be helpful for your trades, right? There's always new traders. So why not learn? It's not that much. It doesn't take that much time out of my time or anyone else's really to explain it. So that's kind of the deal with the imbalance locator. We'll get more into it as we get closer and closer to the end of the day. Futures, looking at that 4,300 again. Oil again has gone quiet, expected after 230. What do we got here? What do I got? Baba out 25 cents. Not a whole lot going on. I don't really have a whole lot of updates. What are you guys looking at? You guys are looking at IMPP?
IMPP's going nuts, man. I just
Yeah?
dodged a bullet there because I guess that could have been a reversal, I suppose. Well, it obviously should have been a reversal. You can see what's going on here. Up to 325 almost. And this is with Indo doing, you know, Indo's not doing anything. It's just IMPP. I saw CI move up a little bit, and then, what was it, MXC is the other one. Yeah, CI also bucking the trend and getting back toward the high, although it hasn't broken out. So, you know, CEI still has the exact same top at 78 cents. And there's a guy in NASDAQ for 275,000 shares on the offer at this price. Well, guess what? It's done 130 million. If it wants to go through that order, I don't think it's going to matter too much. But there is, look, there's a size order on CEI. It has yet to break out, but I don't think these are at this point mattering that INDO doesn't want to go. Keep in mind, INDO went a little bit more parabolic, relatively speaking, today. So the fact that it's not getting second legs might make a little bit more sense in this context. But yeah, we just saw IMPP breakout. CEI is looking to challenge that level as we speak. This 300,000 share offer. I don't know why that's still on IMPP, but I'll put CEI for you. Yeah, it's not huge. That's not a lot of size, really. When you just chewed through it. 130 million shares is not going to care about 300,000. I think it's got some overhead resistance. That's why I don't necessarily like this as much. This is what I'm talking about here with CEI. Load further, there you go. This is what 80 cents looks like up at that top. I don't think you necessarily want to be taking breaks when you have immediate overhead resistance on a higher time frame. And they actually on the daily chart, that doesn't look that bad either. So like 80 cents, if it can chew through that, then there's a little bit more room to run. But if you take that 78 break up at the top, well, 2 cents higher, there might be a place where people have also been looking to sell, and maybe on a higher time frame. So I don't like those types of breakouts, but it is a strong move here in CEI. And Indo breaking down below 40 once again, so that just continues to be weak. But these others are trying to go.
Yep, IMPP. I mean, again, I'm not going to step into any of this, but it is entertaining to watch these names. I was like, IMPP, what is that? And then it's Imperial Petroleum. Okay, so it's another petroleum company that decided that it wants to take off now. So here we are at 330. It's done 117 million. See, I think this is one of my issues too, is that I don't pay attention to names below a certain price. I don't pay attention to names above a certain price and below a certain price. And at $3, I mean, I've got other things that I can trade. So I just kind of leave it alone. And then you see a move from 250 to 330. That's 80 cents in terms of percentages. That's huge on a name that's this price. And then you see that and you're like, oh, can I have taken a ton of volume? Or you have to. If you're going to go down this road of taking these low price names, you got to take it, relatively speaking, you got to up your share size too by a lot. And it's going to be tough to get out of shares. It looks like there's, I also don't know how much is iceberg either, right?
Have you noticed that there's a lot of icebergs on IMPP?
I would say right now I'm not seeing many. I've seen them in the past.
Yeah.
But like I'm generally seeing people just throw their size out there. Like you'll see and usually like executing size. Oh, this is still on CI. Executing size where it's like people clearly looking to work orders is about 3,000 to 5,000 shares on it. And then you might have like bigger offers, but yeah, like most of the real chunk prints are under 10,000, which like you said, like that's not a lot of liquidity for a really cheap stock. Yeah. It's one of the reasons I used to always love Sundial. Like Sundial is the kind of thing where, you know, like you could always get 10, 20K, like it's just like the fills, like there's way more liquidity, which you'd expect when it's doing 100 million shares. Like a lot of this will be these dark pool prints going off, but if you see the actual lid order size, with all that volume, it's 3,000 to 5,000 shares that's going off at a time. And if anybody that comes any bigger than that is going to stand out like a sore thumb, like this order here at 320. They're getting filled, don't get me wrong. It's just a little bit more challenging the bigger you get, but you can get fills on this. It's done 100 million shares.
Yeah.
Like it's not, I don't want to say it's not, it's very liquid. It just may not be as thick on the level 2 as you might be expecting. I think that's probably the main takeaway.
Yeah, so you are, it's probably just being pieced up, right?
Yeah.
Instead of sending a single order, you're piecing it up with 5K here, 10K here, 20K there, whatever. Just piece it up and see if it can get hidden. Futures bouncing. Okay, futures. At this point, would I do anything with it? No. But it's interesting to see, though. Are we going to go back towards the highs of the day? Because I do have a ton of shorts that I need to protect against. If we go back towards these, not highs of the day, but at the very least, after the market opens, since 9:30, are we going to go back to these 36, 37s? That could become a problem. But there should be some resistance around 20. If we get above 20, then I'm going to start walking away from some of these longs, especially ones that are somewhat flat or deep in the money. So Roku being somewhat flat, I am worried about a covering run towards the end. Maybe Roku shouldn't be. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to take care of Roku. Not a fan of the risk on this if it's not going to go. So why not walk away from it and see if we can get a fill? There we go. Let's walk away from Roku. That's somewhat flat. I'll walk away from Roku. It's not worth it. As we get closer and closer to the end, you're at the mercy of what these imbalances are going to be, right?
Yeah.
So if you're able to get out, remove some risk from the table, like I did with Roku. Roku is somewhat flat, right? Why should I hold on to the risk if I'm relying entirely on the imbalance? It's no longer a technical trade. It's an imbalance trade. Because if these imbalances were to come out of buy, Roku's shooting up like 50, 60 cents. So I don't need to take that risk, even if that's the chance. As I say that, it takes off to 65. I'm okay with that. I can live with that decision there. AMD is fine. Square is fine. We may walk away from PayPal and BABA. But those two I'll see if I can't shed some risk on. But at the moment, oh, there you go. Futures was at 17. Now it's back to 10. This is what we're dealing with on the futures.
So if it bounces off, I'm of the way that I'm putting trails in now because that last push and pullback. Yeah. If these names that I'm holding on to that are working, if they can't actually break down at this point before the imbalances come out, then you just got to get out of it. So like as much as I'm happy to hold on to them, and speaking of them, like Kroger. It doesn't fall into that bucket. Like I'm at the money in the stock, and it's never been in the money more than like 20 cents or so. It did get down to the 50s. I could have taken a 20-cent win, and maybe I should have because it's so strong. But this might break out. My stop is not actually up here. That's what my limit order is going to be. But if it breaks 59, I'm going to be out of it. I wanted better than 1-to-1 for the first fill, but that might be greedy. We're running out of time here. Like the market is starting to grind higher. Holding the shorts has been the right idea, but that's going to start to change, it feels like. IMPP just slowed down a bit. I was so close to pulling the trigger. It was like, why isn't this like a little bit closer to 350? I was close to pulling the trigger at 330. There's a lot of selling going on in that 25 to 30 range. Like it'll pop up, and like I said, like people, it's just 3 to 5,000 shares gets thrown on the offer to try to get that fill. And that could be people taking profit that have the long, or it could be people building a short going into the close. I have no way of being able to tell that, but there is enough selling in this range that it's starting to slow up a little bit. At MXC, that could be a very similar story. It never really got past that 26. This is the one on day one. I wanted it to really stretch a heck of a lot further than it did before trying a short. Obviously, it would have worked if you took that 26 short. Super SPAC, man. Yeah, Rocket, they've got the special div, right? Dividend, Rocket is still on the New York last I checked, Neil. It's always me getting it wrong. You type in NASDAQ when it's New York, you type in New York when it's NASDAQ, and then I have to wait for it to load here. But we might have, I suppose we were talking about this making a bit of a run earlier in the week that it might be able to do that. I don't think it's an extreme move that it's making here in context. It's a slight pump up towards the weekly highs. So I don't think anything crazy is happening over in Rocket. But yeah, I can see like it's getting a little bit of a pump. I'm not going to be trading this one. I'd watch out for it on the imbalance locator maybe. You might actually see some people interested in getting some shares in or out off at the close, maybe out would be the way to look at it. But Rocket, I don't think it's all that extreme in the context of what I see on the 15-minute chart.
Yep, futures I'm looking at are coming back in. So the whole thing with what I'm doing with Roku's now south of 120-150. But again, I'm shedding as much risk as possible that I don't need to be in right now. Now, if I just stepped into a trade just now, like I said, you're playing the imbalance, you're not playing the technicals anymore because we're kind of running out of time. So even if the market goes now, it's going to be based on how these imbalances are going to play, right? This is after 350, you're really going to start to see some movement. So why take that risk? So shed as much as you can. The ones that are in the money, do exactly what Neil's doing. Tighten up the stops, or at least as we get closer to 350, tighten up the stops, that in the event that the imbalance comes out in the opposite direction, you just walk away from, lock in as much as possible. So it's entirely possible that a lot of these names that are down big, they're going to kind of snap back up as profit taking happens and or imbalances come back to the buy side. So it's just a matter of shedding risk where you don't need to keep, you don't need to take it. Like Roku's a new trade. I don't need to step into that too much. So we walked away. It was like, I made like a penny on the spread. And I'm walking away with covering the cost of the trade. So we're going to keep that. The other ones, though, the PayPals, I'm still trying to walk away from. CRM, I have zero hope for. But see, in that situation, it's kind of different. CRM, I have zero hope that this is going to go in the money. So all I can do at this point is see what the imbalances look like. In the event it's a sell-side imbalance, then you may see CRM come back down, and I can use that to get out. So I have very little hope that this is going to go in the money, but I can use that to kind of limit the damage. Of course, it can be a buy-side imbalance that pops off. If it does go up, then I can just get out, take the hit. No point in holding on at that point, right? So that's kind of my read with CRM, given what it's doing right now. Everything else, I'm going to hold on unless we get flat. BABA and PayPal, if I can get to flat, then I can walk away from it. BABA does look like it's sliding. Futures, 0875, bouncing off those 05. So you're not getting a whole lot of movement yet. Remember, long weekend, imbalances, a lot of activity abroad, a lot of risk. Oil futures taking off right at the close for them. So there's a lot of risk adjustments and situations that people need to factor into whether they want to hold overnight positions or not. So this is going to be an interesting close. It's been quite a week, guys. So be aware, volatility is coming, and I think it's going to be here in about 20 minutes at the very least.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to, like you said, like take some risk off on your trade. So I got to do it. I got to trim at least a little bit. And it's not going to be a big one. We'll do like a small, you know what? I'm going to hit a fun one. I like that one. So we'll do it. It's not a lot, but I have to trim some off of Kroger because that's not deep in the money. Yeah, I'm going to be able to get a scalp trade of like 10 cents at this point, but it's not a huge win. But I got to talk B-cell for you guys. And this, okay, so there's a low float. Shorts, well, that's not a short squeeze. Short interest, let me double check. I want to make sure I get it right. About 15% on B-cell. And the float's only about 22 million. So it's in that pocket, but it's not an energy name. And interestingly enough, yeah, some of these biopharma names can also do this still. Amazing. Hadn't had that in a while. But if you can kind of tell, I have the daily chart up. This is what I want to show you. Yeah, look what it's going into right now. Going into the weekend, it's going into some chop. Sometimes when you see a level like $3, and then notice that when it got to the price range, this is 285 and the latter stages is 325. It's a chop fest in this range. So whether you're looking for, I would never see that on the daily chart and say, yeah, shorted at 3, or if you're long, oh, you just got to sell it in front of $3. No, like that's a 25 penny range that it can get into to decide what's going to happen next. Is the way I would like to think about it. So if I'm shorting, it's near the top end of the range, have it go parabolic into it. Otherwise, I think it's still, like if you're bullish, like I said, like you wouldn't step in front of 3 based on what I saw on the daily, you'd step in front of 325. As I'm saying all of that, I don't think I even have locates for it. So I could, even if I wanted to get in, maybe we do have locates actually on B-cell, but 325 looks like the level. That's really what I wanted to let you guys know. At this time of day, I probably shouldn't be putting that short trade on, but yeah, you don't necessarily go into 3. Now it's going parabolic. I'm glad I didn't get in front of this one. Starting to go a little bit crazy there. So anytime you see this on the daily, it's easy to think about $3, but look at all of that overhead chop that can just get you absolutely crushed. So I ain't fighting that one. I'm glad you guys pulled it up there. Another low flow, short squeeze type of idea there. Kroger, by the way, I had to take another leg out of it, so it's not ringing a big register, but I just got to sit on the bid. The closer we get to the end of the day here, the one trade that's not deep in the money, this is it's up 6%. And yes, that 6% is a great day, but that does nothing to the justice of how strong this has been the last couple of days. This is up in just essentially over a week, a 25% move, when it ain't exactly been the best week that the futures of the market's ever had. So Kroger, incredibly strong. Looking to short a breakdown, it just does not want to flush, right? Maybe the market can try to make a low here, but this ain't going anywhere. I can tell you what is going to the downside. It's a firm, baby. So I just get my target's now $35, so I have a bid in front of 35, but as it just took out the low, I'm going to continue to tighten my stop. I moved it from 36 to 35.75. I'm going to move it to 35.5, and I'm just going to continue to trail it down, as maybe this is the one that I hold into the close. Sometimes, when in doubt, go back to the well for those levels that you really like, or just the stock that you have the best read on. For the short, it's been a firm for me, and if you weren't following earlier, it is this break. That's all I cared about. Said this morning, they can pop and fade trades all they want, but I want 37.50 when it goes. You go to the end of last week, same bottom, and then you had that break here, pre-market lows, and then it rides all the way down to this gap fill, this higher low support at 35 even. So sometimes you get these, you've just got to make sure you hold on for the entire move. I remember Lucid was the same thing, and I got out in the morning when it did this, and then wasn't willing to hold it for the rest of the move. This time with a firm, we're going to ride or die all the way to the bottom here. So 35 looks like it's about to come into play. Like I said, Kroger okay. Rivian having some trouble with the 47 level. So this might be it for Rivian. But I'm perfectly happy. If we're going to get $3.5, $4 out of Rivian, no matter what, on that short trade. And it's been absolute gold since they bungled this whole price increase. No, not a price increase if you already ordered. They don't know what they're doing over there.
Definitely don't know what they're doing because everyone's looking at Tesla. So, I mean, listen, there's going to be so many EV players that you're going to be able to step in and play with. Right now, Rivian, everybody remember Workhorse?
They're still around.
But that's what I'm saying, though. Like
$3.
It was hot, but then it's not. And now everyone's still trading Tesla. So now it's going to be Rivian. It's going to be the hot name. Not that the company is like bad or anything. I'm just saying that people move from one name to the other, right? So right now it's going to be Rivian's. I think a few months ago everyone was trading LI, Li Auto, and
no, Li Auto, Lordstown, like they're all still around. Actually,
they're all around. But I'm saying it's like the priority shifts to different names.
Even Neo, man, like last year, for all of you that have been around long enough, like when we were trading EVs, like last year, Neo was nonsense. It was always the dip buy and the breakouts and on IO, and it was the day trading darling. And now it's like it's a dog. It's just nothing you can say about it.
That's just happened. That's day trading. When you go with the hot names, they're hot for a while, and then people move on to something else that's hot. Nobody was looking at wheat future, wheat ETF. I didn't even know it existed.
They are now.
And now everyone's looking at oil and wheat, right? It makes sense with the times. People go to the market that's hot right now in terms of volatility, because volatility brings opportunity. And right now, what's bringing opportunity apart from just playing the general market? Oil and commodities, especially high risk commodities. So in this situation right now, wheat is being one of those names. So a lot of attention in those names. And once we move on from this specific time, it's going to be something else that's going to come up. Everyone's going to start looking at. Remember, we got Fed coming up too, right? Everyone's factoring in a quarter-point increase. If it is a quarter-point increase, that's not the point of concern. It's going to be, hey, is it going to be more than what we expected? Is it going to be half? And what is going to be the schedule looking? What is the schedule going to look like?
Yeah.
Right? I think everyone cares more about that than the actual increase because, for the most part, everyone's baked that into the market, right? If it's more than expected, that's going to be a problem. And if it's the schedule is accelerated, that's also going to be a problem, right? So that's kind of what's next on deck for this market, apart from just what's happening with the commodities and the equity market as a whole and volatility that you're getting right now with the current conditions.
And to add to that, I sort of believe it matters more what they do with the balance sheet. And I want the timeline for them trimming the balance sheet. Because look, as fast as it went from 3 trillion to 9 trillion, let me know how fast it's going from 9 trillion to 6 trillion. And we'll see what happens with risk assets at that point. Like, that's what I'm more concerned about. Like, that's the real rug pull. Everybody knows rates are going up, and I think we can get a bit of a handle on what that might look like historically. But what has been going on adding to the balance sheet, like that's at a different level, right? And it doesn't get talked about enough. And sometimes I feel like it's not talked about enough because everyone's scared of it. And again, maybe I'm putting the tinfoil hat on like Brad says, but sometimes it's just how it is. I'm a little concerned with Rivian. Like, finally got that move down that we're looking for, the next leg down in a firm, so that feels really good. But I feel like I should just be taking Rivian out. And as a matter of fact, there's almost no point like trailing this, that way anymore. Cancel that other order there too. I'm just going to get on the bid. You know what? Forget it. I'm just going to cross the spread. I'm just going to get out. Because there's about 5 minutes to go until the imbalances come out here. Rivian clearly doesn't want to trend lower than this 47. I'm already holding 2 other shorts. And look, obviously now that I got out, it's probably going to flush here. But realistically, I'm happy with this. It's been barcoding back and forth at 47. And even when it's broken, it's giving you 25 cents and then come right back up and test 25 cents higher. So got to be trimming things anyways. A firm feels like it's going to be the one that I'm holding on to right till 350. And that means I got to bag the profit. We're happy to take it. This was a good trade. and this is, we never actually get Arun do trade of the day, which is ridiculous because he has absolute bangers. The futures trade when you make top wick in the pre-market, like we're not going to use that.
Nope.
Exactly. But one of the things Sean and I talk about for the trade of the day is it can't just always be what was your biggest winning trade or what's the one that's going to look the best. And like a Rivian Short and Affirm, they were good trades. But the reason why I ended up making it Oxy. Why am I struggling to figure out Oxy, like the hottest stock in the market? It's because even when you have a winning trade, this is embarrassing. It's embarrassing as a trader to get along like that and then have it do all of this. And all I'm doing is getting out in the first buck and then trying to short it a couple times. Now, granted, I didn't really lose much of anything on the short trades, but come on, man. Like, it's about why am I liking the long in the stock for 2 days in a row saying this is a stock I want to be long, I want to get a dip buy. This time I actually managed to get into it when it doesn't give me the dip buy, and I'm just not willing to hold on to it. And I know why. It's because when things go parabolic, I like finding shorts. It's just, you know what it is. It's just got to find a way to be better about these. And this was a monster, and it's been a monster. And I know that oil's not going anywhere, so it behooves me to get better at capturing some of these bigger moves while they're there. Now, we do it all the time in other names. It just can be tricky when you're jumping a new sector. I'm sitting there watching the oil futures chart, and when that's not really breaking out, then I don't like holding this, and you get caught up in that, ignoring just how big the expected volatility should have been when it made the breakout. And that's why we went over the trade, because when you zoom further out, instead of, when I looked at the trade, this is what I was looking at. And that's why I kind of said, oh, it breaks this, it goes to this. This is all you got to do. That's all you got to do. Because when it breaks the consolidation here, it runs like $7 or $8. It breaks the consolidation here, it runs $5 or $6. It's that simple, right? Like, have bigger expectations when the moves are proven and when they're there. And that's what you see with Oxy. And I am expecting, one direction or the other to have more of the same next week. This volatility is going absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, volatility. Hey, this market moves in waves. When you get a wave of volatility, you maximize that as much as possible because it makes up for all the times where you're sitting there doing a whole lot of nothing because the market's not moving. Right? I've been there a lot, especially with the way I trade, because if I don't get a trade, I wait, right? I don't force anything. So there's been times where for months on end, I'd have, in a week, I may have 2 or 3 trades. And then once volatility kicks in, you get a bunch of decent trades that are moving fast and good. Then you maximize your as much as you possibly can, capitalize on that opportunity, and then you, as it hits the next wave, you kind of wait again. And that's just kind of one of those things. It comes with the territory, the fact that the market moves in cycles and it moves in waves, ebbs and flows, and then you just got to hit it. It's like surfing, I guess. I've never surfed, but I guess it would be like surfing. You just got to hit the wave as it comes.
I, for one, am shocked that you have never surfed.
I've
never surfed either.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to some crazy surfing spots like Australia and Hawaii. I've seen people surf, but I've never actually gone out there. My wife actually does surf. She actually learned to surf. Yeah, she actually learned to surf when she was in Costa Rica.
That's cool.
Yeah, so she enjoyed it. She really enjoyed it too.
So why have you tried?
Don't really care.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got to do you, man.
Yeah, I got to do it. Yeah.
Look, I'm a Canadian who, like, when I have gone like skiing, well, I don't ski, but when I actually have gone do a ski hill, I'm that dude in the chalet doing, having some fun, waiting for everyone to come back off the hills, because it ain't my thing, and you can't just always do other people's things. But Affirm, it's over, and we'll do this for the thing that keeps on giving. It's Affirm, but it is the trailer. So I've been tightening my stop. It's 3:47, so 2 minutes till the imbalances come out. And that's me getting the trail out. And of course, it's going to plunge right after. But at some point, I have to get out of it. It's still going to be about almost $2.50 on that winner. And we're pretty happy with it because I always need to be looking at Affirm. It's a stock that has been pretty good for me the last month. And every single time I take it, it has been working for me. So the read's good. And when the read is good, you go back to the well over and over and over again until it's not. And it doesn't hurt that the trend looks like this. So finding short trades in the stock has not been that hard. And if you can't short in this market, at least you can understand where the floodgates open up so you don't get destroyed on your longs. Imbalances are coming in about a minute. I know we're going to look at those and give those to you. But it was it Ari again asking about NVIDIA short targets? I'm not short NVIDIA. Are you short NVIDIA?
I was short NVIDIA earlier.
I haven't looked at it today, so I got to be honest. I have not. I looked at AMD today. I did not look at NVIDIA, so I can try to pull the chart up very quickly. We're going to have to show the imbalances here. I mean, the 225, if were it to break on the 15, I don't know why it doesn't want to zoom any further. There's a $5 chop zone and then a gap to 206. So if it breaks out of the $5 chop, the gap support in NVIDIA has been that 200 level. So I suppose if you're holding a short over the weekend, which I don't like to do, especially not in NVIDIA, I wouldn't do that. But yeah, I mean, 220 is a bit of a channel of possible support. Then you get down to like 200 to 205. There's room for it to go down. I just would not be holding NVIDIA over the weekend. I think a lot of people like NVIDIA above that $200 range for dip buys. It's the same thing with AMD at 100. It's already fallen down. At this point, people are starting to want to get back into it, I think.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where NVIDIA, when I took it this morning, I didn't really have a target. I just wanted to manage it as much as possible. Let me pull up the chart for you guys on NVIDIA here. NVIDIA, it's a NASDAQ name. There we go. When I took it this morning at 2:30, there really was no target. It was just a matter of me managing it all the way through as much as I possibly can. And then as it bounces back, you guys can't see that chart, but as it bounces back, I'm not going to step into it, right? I mean, like, if you look at the daily, and this is the very first thing I do anytime I step into one of these names, I'm going to keep a close eye on the imbalances coming out. Actually, we'll get back to NVIDIA after these imbalances come out. I had no targets. This is what the daily looks like on NVIDIA. Yeah. So let's take a quick look at the imbalances. What are we going to do? We are going to sell, buy, mixed. It looks like it's mixed a little bit all over the place. And EDU.
Ooh, that's a Chinese education.
Yes, sir. 14 million shares on the buy side on EDU, and it is $1.21. That's done 25 million shares. So let's take a quick look at what EDU did as these imbalances come out. I don't see how much.
Nothing big.
I don't think this would do any. Yeah. Let's ignore EDU, yeah? Because it's at $1.21 and 14 million, and given what it's trading like, ignore that. IBN is next on the list. IBN sell side. 2.7 million shares, done 20 on the day, not large enough. And Nielsen, NLSN, New York, okay, that should be a decent mover. A little pop there. And Nielsen, 2.2 million shares, not as large as I would have thought for a market that's moving this much. I would have expected some more names, some oil names to have imbalances, some oil, and then commodity names to have some imbalances, or at least even some ETFs at times. But it doesn't look like there's much here. 355 is the next update, right? So when we get the next update, these numbers will change. A lot of these, I'm assuming EDU is going to essentially go to zero in terms of size. The imbalance size is going to disappear. Odds are that's what's going to happen because 355 gives you the floor update. So EDU hasn't done a whole lot. Now back to NVIDIA. NVIDIA, when I took this 230 short that I kind of bungled, there was no target. I'm like, yeah, it'll be nice if we get to 210, but what's the reality? What's a realistic probability of getting to 210 today? I was like, yeah, I'm not sure. But at the same time, there's no targets. If you can look at 210, but again, you want to see how it trades around those prices, right? So not a whole lot going on there. I'm just quickly looking up at my names that I've got. None of them are helping right now. I've got BAVA, PayPal, still haven't moved. CRM is not coming back.
That's 7 minutes to the close.
Yeah, I know, but CRM, I can get out of CRM because I have very little faith that CRM was even going to come out, was going to help me. It was going to be damage control on CRM at the very least. Clearly, I didn't get the help I wanted from these imbalances, so I'll just start dumping CRM soon.
Okay, so it's a different kind of question I'm going to answer here. Frank Sailors, will the Bengals be in the Super Bowl next year? I need a place to bet. Well, I can give you a resounding no. They absolutely will not be in the Super Bowl next year because they're in the AFC, and the Buffalo Bills will be in the Super Bowl next year. So there you go. I'm a Bills fan, by the way. So
were your Bills in the Super Bowl last year?
Shut up, man. I say it every single.
Were your Bills in the Super Bowl last year?
Watch your tone. Don't talk trash about the Buffalo Bills, man. I know you whooped my butt, but like, come on, man. Don't do it. It already hurts. The Bills are amazing. You know it. I know it. JA is going to do what JA does. That's Josh Allen, by the way. But IMPP, rocket ship, it just broke to the high of the day. So, yeah, the relative strength is all over these. These names are amazing. I don't believe anybody should try to be swinging these and hold them over the weekend. But these are day trading vehicles every single day. And the one mistake I'm making is when I find stop out levels, I'm not reversing on these. And it's just like, it's ridiculous. The other day I was trying to get longs on the stock. And I did have a couple of good longs. It was around that 2 level, but not today. Today I was only trying to short, and what a reversal this was. Like, come on, man. Come on, Neil. Multi-day high, multi-day high. That's a reversal long. Take it, take it, take it. So, not going to make that mistake next week. Got to be willing to take some of these long trades when they're there. The shorts are fine, and they're great when they come in, but INPP, INDO, now this MXC, whatever the Mexico something that stock is, they're all nuts, and they're in the right sector, and the float is just absolutely tiny. That MXC, by the way, if you're watching it, it's still near that high. This is day one for this thing, and it's still near those highs. So super strong movers. And I think these moves in volatility are not going anywhere. Like I said, INDO even got off the bid. Like, you want to talk about something that's crazy. Whoops, please load up chart. I know, AF, like what market is
Australian
AF?
futures.
How do you even know that?
Because I told you futures. I know a majority of futures markets
Well,
we have.
while that loads, I'll just show you the one I'm actually looking at up here. INDO super strong, right? Like, look at it just grind higher. And this is after capitulating off of 50, pulling back down to 36, and that 2 o'clock or 2:30 move we talked about, it then rolled over and still is finding a way to close at $44, up 116%. By the way, all on the watch list, which I guess if you just punch long on these bullish names on the watch list, it's actually pretty effective. We end up taking a pretty good out there in a firm. We trail out, it's breaking higher, so that was obviously the right thing to do. And it was the same thing over in Kroger. We rang the register. It never gave me the move I wanted. I didn't lose on the trade, but it never rolled over. Kroger is super strong. You can see it breaking back towards the top. As the market, it may not go green, but you better believe it's trying to go to the upside at the close. So no threat of closing on the lows to end the week, which I think a lot of people would have been concerned about. But either way, the market found a little bit of a temp bottom. By the way, look at this level. We were talking about this in the at lunch, Arun.
Yeah.
This weekly support, or whatever you want to call it, the NASDAQ, 13,750. And then on the ES, basically the same thing, just below 4,300 at 4,280. And you say all the time, sometimes levels are a trading range.
Yep.
Well, that 4,300, how many times has it been below? But has it been able to get more than 20 to 25 points below? No, it hasn't. So a level is held despite the fact that it'll tick through it plenty of times. And I think that's one thing you say that we don't repeat enough. So
Yeah.
target areas sometimes.
Yeah, you got to treat levels as fences. I read that somewhere. I don't know which.
I like that. No, that was you. You made that up. That's yours.
No, well, I don't want to take credit for someone else's work. I'm very honest with that. But it's in one of those books, one of those big trading books that everybody likes to read, especially at the start of their career. You got to treat levels as fences, and that is always true. If you treat them as like hard lines that, if it crosses, it's done. It's all about flow. You know the general area where something should happen, it should break or whatnot, but that can always move. Sometimes I come on the show, I'm giving futures levels, and I'll come the following day and be like, yeah, that level moved a little bit. Depends on activity, right? It's 355, past 355, and EDU is still 13.8 million shares on the buy side. I have very little hope that this is going to stay through all the way to the end. I mean, these numbers will disappear as we get closer to the end, though. I'm surprised it hasn't disappeared already. As you can see, I am completely flat. We've walked away from everything as a proprietary trading office that needs to be flat at the end of the day. We are completely flat. Our guys, well, I'm flat by now. B-Cell is running.
What the hell is going on with this thing? Brandon, is this what you're talking about?
Yeah, well, B-Cell is up 153% apparently on the day, up $2.63. Yeah, going absolutely nuts. But hey, with about 3 minutes left, I don't know if you want to step into that right now.
No.
That's a little dangerous game to play. In the event there's an aftermarket, let's take a quick
We got to get
look.
to Brendan for a second here before the close.
Yeah, okay. It's 450 and going. So this is what the chart looks like on B-Cell. It just took off from 320 up to 470, still going up strong. If you want to play the game, now might be the time to play that volatility game. Brendan?
Yeah, it's another, as you guys said, low float type of stock. There is a short percent there as well. We'll watch that. Definitely for Monday. Somebody was asking about earnings for next week, guys. I mean, we're getting through to the point where there's very, very few left. There's Dick's Sporting Goods coming up. There's Oatly. There's Bumble. A few names. Here's what's coming up on Monday. We can show you this. Not much to choose from.
Not a heck of a lot. Sienna, I know Sienna. So by the way, Sienna is one of the very first stocks when I was a trainee.
Oh.
It was one of the first stocks when I moved from Momentum to maybe doing some smaller caps. Sienna was one of those. And I'll be honest about this. B-Cell, when I pulled it up and we talked about it earlier, and it was at that 3, making this breakout actually, I got to make that transition with 90 seconds to go. Sometimes when something's going parabolic and I don't like the short here, sometimes needs to mean go long. That's, it's like, oh, I don't like that short. But maybe that means you like the long. So I really can't explain, other than, of course, late squeeze, what's going on. If it was more than 1 minute to go in the market, would I have shorted $5? Oh yes, I would have, because it's $5, and look what it just did. But there's no way you're actually making that play now. It's just suicide, because I'd have to be flat at 4, which is not a good spot to be in. Hoping for a big retracement. The market may not get green, but Valeria ringing the bell is going to be wearing green, and at least we got a bounce off the bottom. Big shout out to Arun. Thank you so much for filling in for Shanu. He'll be back next week. But a wild week that it's been. It's going to be even crazier next week. I want to thank Tony for stepping into the midday show with Trader Pratt and Miss V and giving his thoughts and ideas. And all week, Luca and Brandon and hopefully Ian too now joining that show to talk about their journeys. That's one of the fun things. We're going to have traders joining Prad's show, sort of talking about the positions that they took when things have slowed down at lunchtime. It's a lot of fun to be able to do it. Of course, a big shout out and thank you to our entire crew and everybody around. And thank you guys. It's been a very, very fun day. And sometimes, we don't get to look at some of these names unless you're around pushing us to. With that, let's drop the countdown. Ms. V is locked and loaded, ready to ring that closing bell on an amazing week. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Ring it.
All right, that was a fun ride, guys. Thank you for joining the ride that is the market. It's been quite the start, quite the finish, and in between, we've made some money, we've lost the money, and here we are, ready to go again next week. Sean will be back. I don't think I'm in next week, but I think I am in the following week for you one time, right?
Well, it's March break, which I don't know if you have March break in the States. In Canada, like, school gets off for 1 week, so I'm taking one day, just going up to the in-laws. Well, my wife and daughter are going up the entire week, but I'll take one day, and then the second day, believe it or not, the Monday I'll be off, and then like the Tuesday, like the 15th, I think it is. Yeah, I got called in for jury duty. So
you are doing the 15th too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure about the 15th.
I got to go in. Hopefully I don't get selected, but it's your civic duty to, when you get called for jury duty, to step up to the plate. Before we get out of here, we always forget that we need to find out, even though we kind of know where it is, but how did the overall market do? Let's go to Brendan and figure that one out.
As we said when we started this afternoon, it could have been a lot worse, guys, and nice move back to the upside heading into the close there. So 0.7, 0.9, 1.3 for the U.S. So yeah, we're negative, but as we said, it could be a lot worse. 7.4% for crude oil again. Where does it go next week remains to be seen. Make sure you're here to find out on Monday.
Well, it hasn't hit 120 yet, so there's always that. I kind of feel like that's the line in the sand I've been reading the whole time is like, not line in the sand, but it's like everyone's like, oh, the 100 break and it goes to 120. So I don't know. If I had to guess, I'd say that. But if I had to guess, I wouldn't have thought B-cell would go to $5.80 in the aftermarket.
Yeah. Everyone's complaining about oil and how expensive gas is. Having been to New Zealand, I'm just like, it doesn't shock me anymore. Because it was twice as expensive as it was in Canada at the time.
That ain't right.
And I'm just like, I've seen.
Because it's not cheap here. That's the thing.
It's not cheap here, but it was twice as expensive in New Zealand at the time. For anyone who's living in New Zealand, man, you guys, it's a rough go there. It's gas and limes are very expensive from what I gather in New Zealand.
Well, that's just ridiculous.
It could have been season 2, but
you can't be paying too much for limes. That's where I draw the line. Thank you guys so much for an amazing week. Thank you to the entire team. Once again, I'm going to shout out Mark. He's been, all week long, he's been working on our desk so that we can get back, and then Trader Pratt and Ms. V can get in this one, which it's a heck of a lot of work, and the entire team's done a fantastic job. Rob, Randy, and I don't know. I see Luca over there. Lucas over there, and Maggie is actually back here as well. So they've been on the 1s and 2s for the afternoon show. I used to be able to see them without ducking around my monitors, but in the new seat, it's a bit different. Thank you so much. Brandon doing a fantastic job. I mean, he's the one that's getting us these names to shout out to you in the mornings, right? So fantastic job there, Miss V with the bell. Shout out to Greg, who is still hiring, by the way. So we gave that email before. Oh, sorry. Okay, fine. We're about to wrap it up here. But thank you guys so much. We are Trader TV Live. We will see you next week. Bye, guys.